ask Claudia for good. Good?
We're good.
All right. I'd like to call to order the May 11th, 2022 Long Hill Township Committee meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk.
Compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. Public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda. Committeeman Lavender.
Here.
Committeeman Ray.
Present.
Committeeman Verleza.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Pasurcia.
Present.
Mayor Dorsey.
Present. All right, the first thing, we have two guests. Raymond, you have to wait a second. We have two guests from the high school. Business Administrator Tim Stein and Dr. Jewett, the superintendent, to do a budget presentation. So the floor is yours. Dr. Jewett, how's the baby doing?
So he's fantastic.
That's good
And
to
this
hear.
is allergies. I just want to make that clear to everyone. So I've had like 7 COVID tests in the past week just to make sure, but that's all it is. But the baby's great. He's 16 months old. So Tim and I were actually just saying it's been 3 years since we've been here in person, which is so hard to believe. But it's nice that even though the townships don't vote on the budget anymore, we really do enjoy coming to speak with you. You know, it sets aside that time once a year that we know we get to come and talk to you, and we appreciate you giving us some of your time. And so we promise we will not take up too much of it tonight. We'll just give some highlights. But it is really nice to see all of you in person. This is my 9th year in the district, which is seems surreal, and I really consider myself extremely, extremely lucky to lead a district that is in the communities that we draw from. Each of our townships are so supportive, and as you have all been who've served on the council for a number of years, and actually, you know, it's nice now when I come to these meetings, there's familiar faces out here as well, because they've either had students come through the school, they're on the rescue squad that are at our school for different events, so we really do appreciate the support we get from the townships, and I commend our Board of Education as well, because the budget that we'll speak to you about tonight, they spend a lot of time working with our administration to develop a budget that allows our students to have exceptional educational opportunities, but our board does so in a very fiscally responsible manner. And I think you'll see that with the budget tonight. We developed this budget being very sensitive to the times and the forces outside of the school that are going on and are affecting the economy and just everyone's livelihood. So we certainly are sensitive to that. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of the accomplishments of the district that the budget allows us to achieve, and just some of the indicators of progress that we use to make sure that we're going in the right direction. And we are actually in the first year of our next 5-year strategic plan, and the goals for that plan focus largely on, in addition to student achievement and innovative opportunities, social emotional wellness as well, which we know our district focused on that, in our first strategic plan prior to the pandemic, but we know that those needs have been exacerbated even from the conditions of the past couple of years. So we have about 1,800 students. That's down from about 2,300 when I came into the district 9 years ago. We do expect that to be on the rise over the next couple of years with all of the housing going up in the different communities, and we're actually going to be doing a demographic study probably in the next year or so as part of the regionalization study we're looking to do, so that we can get some more accurate information with regard to that. And one of the other highlights of district recognition that we got this year was we were recognized as one of 7 districts in New Jersey to earn Lighthouse recognition. And what the Lighthouse recognition was for this particular year is diversity in our recruiting and retaining of our staff. And while we have a lot of work to do in that area, we have actually made that an area of focus. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has been part of our strategic plan from our first one that we developed in 2015. And we've really focused on trying to develop a culture of acceptance at Watchung Hills. And so while it's nice, that years ago we were trying to recruit a more diverse staff, It's hard to do that unless it's really a systemic effort and you're actually developing and creating a culture for the students and the staff where they feel that you're embracing DEI. And so we did earn that recognition this year. And again, it's just an indicator that validates the work we've done so far and that we're moving in the right direction. In terms of just some of the other academic benchmarks that we look at each year, 91% of our students earned a score of 3 or better on AP exams, and 3 is kind of the benchmark score that you look at. And 210 of those students actually earned scholar recognition for their AP performance on multiple exams. We have 7 national merit finalists for the current class of 2022. And as you know, you see in the echoes all of the other co-curricular and athletic accolades that our students earn, including our robotics team qualifying for the first international robotics competition in Houston that they participated in over spring break, and they made a really nice showing. So that was a really outstanding accomplishment. One of the other things that this budget includes is year 5 of our one-to-one Chromebook initiative. Again, that was something that we started pre-pandemic, and we are very fortunate that we did, because then when we went remote, every single one of our students, except for our senior class, actually already had Chromebooks, so it was very easy for us to then outfit the senior class with them, because it was a much lighter lift than if none of our students had them. So we're continuing with that, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Stiles to give some more of the financial details. And again, those are just some of the highlights of what the budget that the township support allow us and our students to accomplish. And I have to say, it's nice to be almost back to normal at the high school. We're in the height of the spring season of events, end of year events with the proms, with the award ceremonies, with the concerts, and there's just such an energy from the students because they've missed those for the past couple of years. We've done them in different forms, and last year, we had a lot of events on our outdoor stage, but it's, they're feeling that getting back to that sense of normalcy. And the junior prom was such a tremendous event a couple of weeks ago, and it's nice to see the joy back on their faces. So again, thank you for having us tonight, and now Mr. Stiles will give some additional information.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jewett. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and town committee members. I've been coming around, actually, I've been with the district about 14 years, and I'll echo the comments Dr. Jewett made, except for the baby thing. I'm past that, at least for a bit anyway, unless my kids have kids, then I'm good to go. But yeah, so no, it's good to see you, and I cannot believe that it's been that long. It just seems like such a weird world we've been in for the past couple of years, but it's nice to see you in person. There are a lot of things that we worked on during the budget. One of the things that the board was concerned about, obviously, was the inflation and the things that are going on nationally. So our worry was we got to put together a budget that's responsible, meets our needs, but also is not something that's going to hurt the community with the taxes. So we're allowed a 2% cap, and there's other things that we can put into it, which our board never goes after. They're called waivers. So we ended up going below the 2%. We're actually at 1% tax levy increase. And that's purely because the board, again, was concerned about what's going on in the nation. One of the things that we have in our budget that we're very proud of, an energy saving improvement program. It's a 15-year lease. And what we can do with that lease, we combine it with adding solar panels on our roofs. We changed all our lighting to LED. And with those energy savings and maintenance savings, we are able to get rooftop units, about 17 of them. Rooftop units replace the old out-of-date units that we have. So we have 15 years of leases, and what happens is the energy savings and the maintenance savings from not constantly have to fix these things will make up for that lease payment. So year 1 of that 15 is in there. So it's a unique way for the board to add all of these energy items that we need and not hit the taxpayers with any extra money. So it's cost neutral. That was the benefit of the program. And we do get some state incentives, some rebates and things like that, which also help pay for that. Total budget's $49 million, or a little over $49 million. It's actually down 1.44% overall from last year. Part of that is we did get a lot of COVID money, about $800,000 worth of COVID money that's not in this budget this year. However, we did remain as cost neutral as possible. Our categorical state aid went up about $160,000. It's at $2.2 million. We're still getting $364,000 per year of state money from debt service aid for the 2013 referendum. And then the average and tax impact for just Long Hill, the rate actually dropped 0.0376. So for $100,000 taxes, it's actually a decrease if you went 100 to 100. If you compare last year's average home to this year's average home, which was up about 10%, the actual increase in taxes from our budget is $16. And there's plenty of information on our website, www.whrhs.org. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. But thank you again for the time. It's always a pleasure to come here.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Dr. Jewett or Mr. Stein? I just have one general question. I saw another town, I know different busing issues. Has there been any discussion about starting school later?
Well, transportation's been tough.
Well, I know there's
So
bus
you
driver
mean
shortage
separate from
everywhere.
that, but the actual later school start time?
Yes.
Yes, we actually, so, one of the conversations, our principal, Mr. Librera, has been very active in conversations with this, with some of the other principals in Morris County. He actually came from, he worked in Chatham, who are implementing the later start times next year. So that was something that was already, in the back of his mind when he came to us. But one of the things that he and I talked a lot about during COVID is we said, okay, if we could figure out how to do the craziest schedules ever during the pandemic, I think we can figure out how to let kids sleep a little longer, coming to high school. So it's something that we're actually working on. Obviously, we're in a little bit of a different position than a K-12 district because we have to coordinate it with the K-8s, but it is something that our board has been continuing to talk about, and that we actually are planning on sitting down with our transportation director to take a look at the schedules of all of the schools in our region and see if we can come up with something that might work. So yes, that is something that we are actively discussing. And yeah, if we could just find buses to actually pick up the kids and drivers, that would help. But that is something that we are very actively talking about.
Thank you.
Or drivers, if you guys want to drive a bus.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So if I could, I want to thank Dr. Jewett and Tim. Year after year you come, except for the little COVID break. And I know I speak for the Township Committee. I appreciate you coming to a public meeting and discussing it with us. Well done by the school board as well, coming up with this budget. I think they must have worked very, very hard on this. And I also want to thank the Echo Sentinel because the reporting they've done on the budget, and I guess it was last week's paper, was excellent. So you've answered all of my questions. I have nothing to ask, and so thank you.
Thank you. Any other thing for the high schoolers? Thank you very much. Hopefully see you next year again.
Yeah.
Have
And
a
if
good
anything
night.
comes up between now and then, budget related or not, that you ever have concerns or questions about, please don't hesitate ever to reach out to either of us.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Be
Doctor.
well.
Thank Tim.
Well done.
Raymond, you're up. Next is young Mr. Lavender. About 2 months ago, he was here discussing his Eagle Scout project, and he now has some updates for us, and it's amazing how much a couple days off, nice weather, and free food will do to get people motivated. So, Raymond, if the floor is yours.
So before I begin, I just have a couple of handouts for the committee.
Thanks, Megan. Want to split?
Oh, there's the pay. Okay, I'm gonna take you.
You only have 4? Can we split? We can share.
No,
I'm sure Scott's seen it. I looked at it on email.
I've seen it enough.
The trout's like,
You want me to do it? Yeah.
it's a stupid people for marketing. This is you and me.
Home, but we're gonna do the presentation as well, so you can see.
Okay,
All right.
go ahead.
So I just want to start off by thanking the committee for inviting me back for a follow-up on my project. I remember back in February, I proposed to you guys, and you graciously gave me permission to start this. So work started in April. And the first thing we did was we redid the trail markers with new plastic blazes. We placed them over the old blazes in the same spots. They're screwed into the trees and they last a lot longer, so there'll be less maintenance for the troop. Next, we did some general maintenance on all the trails, cutting away brush, leaves, and logs, and including a giant bridge that washed like 30 feet down the stream. It weighed so much. It was a pain to get out of there, but now it's staked down with rebar. Hopefully it doesn't flood away again, but that was a huge success. I also added the purple trail in the southeastern portion of the property. It's 2/10 of a mile. And it's got a lot of nice views, some ups and downs. And we also had to install 70 feet of boardwalk in there. And that took a lot of effort to put that in, bringing that down some hills and stake them in with rebar. In addition to that, by adding a new trail, that means we have to update all the trail signs. So I updated the map. It has the new purple trail in the southeastern portion. And I also added 2 trail markers at the start and end of each of the purple trail. At the main trailhead at Winding Way, I painted that with stain just to give it a fresh look. And both trailhead signs were updated with the new maps, and as well as a little graphic on the history and some other Eagle projects that happened in Hicks Tract. So we had 26 volunteers in total helping with this project, getting it done in 175 man-hours, which is amazing. I can't thank them enough for all the help they provided me. The materials were donated from Troop 56, so it was no cost to the town. And then a little funny thing, we found some guinea pigs while we were putting in the bridges, and they were just on the trail while we were building. So after we finished, my family went back and we adopted them. So they're under the care of my mom and sisters right now.
Thank you, Raymond.
Oh, thank you, Mom and
Yeah,
Sister.
yeah, exactly.
So all in all, this project was a ton of fun. A lot of work too, but I think it benefits the town, and judging by the response on social media, it seems everyone is already enjoying it. So thank you.
Good job, Ray. Any questions for young Mr. Lavender? When do you have to present that to the council? Or is it done already?
Once I finished all the paperwork for it.
Oh, all right. The hard part, you mean? Mm-hmm. Any questions for Ray? No, thank you, Ray. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Ray.
You probably in there.
Thank you.
Ray, it's a great job in there. It's one of my favorite places. You've made it even better, so thank you very much.
And the rest of the troop, for that matter, 'cause I know it's a group effort.
Thank you.
So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, another show and tell. Now we have Lisa and somebody from the Township Engineering Company discuss about Myersville Field, different options we have.
Good evening, everyone. So the problem with following the Eagle Scout presentation is the only news I have is it's going to cost money and take time, you know? So in talking with Lisa and working with Nancy regarding Myersville Field, we looked at a couple of different parking options, and you have some handouts there, and I apologize, the resolution isn't so great, but I can walk you through the numbers with the exhibits there. And what I'll be presenting to you.
Yeah.
The screen's down?
Yeah, screen's down. It's a little delayed, but I have it up.
Okay. So, but you all have the handouts, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll have the
Okay. So the charge there is to really look at what kind of formal parking spaces we can get at the field. And in looking at the existing conditions, which is the first sort of image on your map there, your handouts, the exercise here is sort of look at every possible configuration. So these are in no, they're in a logical order, but they're in no particular order of preference. They're just looking at the different options we have for parking. So sort of north to south, you've got the playground, the existing parking area, the undefined gravel parking area, the basketball courts, and then the tennis courts. In looking at sort of option one, the first option, you have, I'm going on my notes here so I don't have to keep flipping pages, but going on my notes there, you have, in the existing parking, you basically can fit 8 at 90 degrees, trees of 8 parking. So your magic number here is looking at conventional parking spaces are 9 by 18. An aisle between them is 24 feet. That gives you basically the correct size parking space, industry standard parking space, and correct aisle width so you don't have any fender benders. So orienting the parking spaces you can see on that first image there, sort of at 90 degrees to New Vernon Road. Within the existing parking area, I can get 2 trees of 8 or 16 parking spaces. Okay. If you were to go to your next slide there, taking out the basketball court, I can get a 3rd row of 8, so I can add 8, I get a total of 24 parking spaces, okay? The width there, so if you look at that conventional parking space size of 9 by 18, an aisle width of 24, and then another 9 by 18 parking space, you get what we call bay lengths or bay widths of 60 feet. So that's kind of the magic number. So in increments of 60, you can get us additional double rows of parking. We don't have enough with just the existing parking and the basketball courts to get sort of 2 double rows, so I got 1.5 there, right? So you got 24 spaces. If we were to just take out the tennis courts, leave the basketball courts in, all right, I can pick up 32 spaces for a total of 48. If I were to take out both the basketball courts and the tennis courts, I'm up to 56 spaces. If I ignore the basketball court,
Additional.
total. If I were to ignore to the south and just go to the north and take out the playground, I can get 16 spaces there too. So I can get a total of 32 spaces with the existing and just the playground. And then if I take them all out, I can get 72. So in incremental order, looking at the number, and what I don't have a feel for here, what I don't know that we really have quantified is what the real true parking demand is or should be, right? So what I've given you there is a couple layout options, and just to run the totals down in incremental order is, we've got 16 in the existing parking field. We can do a 24 option, a 32, a 48, a 56, and a 72. So we've got a lot of options to pick from, but we've got to pick and choose sort of what we want to, remove and take back. Now, just for the sake of completeness, you'll see in the later sections, I have a layout 2 options that I've provided, where I've oriented the parking, I flipped it 90 degrees. So I think that's probably your sheet. I'm sorry, I don't know what number sheet you have there, but if you go past the first couple of sheets there, 8, yeah, you'll see I flipped the parking 90 degrees. And I kind of did the same exercise. And I ran through a few options of what the parking would do if I take the existing and I incrementally add the basketball, tennis courts, and playgrounds. I net a few more spaces that way. However, I can't in good conscience really recommend this layout here, because you end up with that outer row is just 90 degrees right off New Vernon Road. You got people backing up on the road. But I wanted to show you that, like, if you're just, packing them in like sardines, that's what you're gonna get in there. But I just think it's an operational problem. So I would really recommend orienting them to the 90-degree bays. You end up with these sort of conventional, driveway type approaches to New Vernon Road with these sort of pods of parking. In speaking with Lisa, and looking at the activity that we typically get at the fields, or kind of just doing the math of what you would typically get for 2 teams there, the 48 or 56 options seem to be like the sweet spot in terms of parking demand, but that's going to mean that you will lose the playground and the tennis courts.
Actually, the
Not the
48
playground, excuse me, the basketball courts and the tennis courts. She said, don't lose the playground. It was in my head, right? So,
What is the surface you would have down? Would it be paved or be impervious? What kind of surface you
well, right now, the advantage you have is that, with the exception of really the parking area, everything's paved.
Yes.
So that's helpful here. The gravel surface in the parking lot, I think if I had my preference, I would recommend paving that gravel area, right? I think that can be done relatively easy on the permitting scheme of things. The parking area now is about 4,600 square feet, right? So rough math to pave that, you know, in today's market, that could be a $25,000 cost to pave that area, right? Plus whatever the cost would be to remove the fences and things for the tennis courts. But looking at the environmental constraints for the overall field, right? You have the tributary to Black Brook to the south of this field here. You're clear of wetlands. Wetlands is kind of south of the field, but you're in a riparian zone and you're in the floodway, right? So you have to keep everything kind of level and flat. You can't raise everything.
Okay.
Right.
To that point,
Yeah.
if you could speak in language I understand.
Right,
It's not wetland.
right.
The area to the north, to the, I guess we can call it the west, could any of the recreational facilities that we're discussing possibly removing, could any of them be relocated to those areas?
To the west,
Or the north?
You mean like on the other side of the fence, like in the outfield?
Correct.
Oh,
Where we have the
batting cage.
batting cage.
potentially, yes. It would drastically complicate the permitting implications because you would be adding impervious cover. So that would be an issue. So there's kind of two issues at play here. Because you're out of the wetland, so that you probably have a slight transition area at the south end, which is not too much of an issue. But because you're in the riparian zones, removal of vegetation becomes problematic from a permitting standpoint. Adding impervious coverage becomes problematic from a permitting standpoint. So you would be an individual permit. We would be crossing the threshold to the harder to get type DEP permits. Not impossible, but harder to get. From the floodplain aspect of it, think of the entire area like a bathtub. Okay, and the way the DEP looks at it is they look at flood storage in the floodplain. So anything you put, anything above the surface of the ground, the light poles, for example, I've had them tell me, well, count the garbage cans, and I say full or empty, right? But anything above the surface of the ground would be like an ice cube in the glass, right? And would take away storage volume in the floodway. So anything you put in the bathtub, you have to enlarge the bathtub to compensate for it so that you end up with no net flood storage. So if you were to raise the tennis court a foot, hypothetically, you would have to take the equivalent footprint of the tennis court somewhere else and lower it a foot so that your net volume doesn't change. That becomes the analysis with the DEP. In the case of just replacing the gravel with asphalt surface, because we are under the quarter acre, it's motor vehicle surface is a regulated entity now, right? Anything that has paving, but because you're allowing parking on it now, they'll look at the gravel and the asphalt the same, and we're under the quarter acre anyway. So if we were just to, let's say, finish the gravel surface in the parking lot from a maintenance standpoint would be cleaner, easier to mark the parking spaces, et cetera. And then remove the fencing and things and the tennis elements from the basketball courts and tennis courts, remove that above ground things. I think we're in the general permit category of DEP, which is kind of the easier to get as opposed to individual, and we don't have to do the compensation and mitigation. So probably the only area that you could potentially consider, we've got that lake pretty close to the north of the field there. In terms of adding the tennis court somewhere else, I think we'd have to take a deeper look at that in terms of what the permitting implications would be. We'd have to get a path to it. I'd have to look and see. I'd have to really run numbers to see if we're within the realm of general permits, individual permits, but I think it would be tough.
Are you talking about the lake that's on what was previously called Copper Springs?
Yes. Yeah.
I remember way back when I was on the Board of Adjustment, or maybe it was afterwards, that lake is considered impervious because it's man-made.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it complicates the permitting implications. I think it complicates the space limitations, just in terms of fitting the tennis court over there, north of the field. If we tried to squeeze something between that area, I don't know how much room we have in there.
But we don't own it.
I know, I'd have to look at property lines to see. You asked where we could stick the tennis court somewhere.
Right, yes.
And I'd have to look and see, could we squeeze it to the north there? Would it have to be to the west? I'm not sure where we could fit it.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah, and I think if you, let's say, permitting implications aside, if you were able to physically locate it, let's say, beyond right field, right, to the west of the field, it would be further complicated by the fact you'd probably have to get a walking path to it, you know, so
Right.
it just compounds in terms of what the impervious coverage would be. What I like about everything but the playground options or configurations on the parking spaces is that we're essentially replacing gravel with pavement, and it's kind of in-kind replacement. So we're not really changing anything. We're working within the riparian areas, we're working within the floodway, so we'd have to go through the DP general permit process, but we're not making any net
The
change.
surface on the playground, what exactly is in there, and is it considered impervious or pervious?
That's considered pervious. The
Okay.
playground itself, that area, yeah. But I'm told that the basketball court really is the least utilized of all the elements there. The concern I have there is if you just take out the basketball courts, you net 8 more spaces out of the 16, and I'm not sure it gets you anything meaningful. So I think you really want to do a little more than that.
If I could, play a tag team here, I see our recreation director's here,
Yes.
and I think she's already anticipating questions that I have and others will have. Usage, and what can be made up by what's here, and what can't be really, well, I'll give you a hint where I'm going with it. I don't know that the playground can be duplicated in the sense that is, I think, heavily used by Myersville residents. I don't know if the basketball court and the tennis courts are, and that's why I asked for you to answer that.
So first of all, the basketball court is not in great shape, and we haven't invested money in upgrading it or anything over the past couple of years because we want to make sure we know what we want to do with that area. The tennis court as well is, we're supposed to go out to bid to replace the surface with a slip sheet. And in addition to having that court then lined for tennis, we would also do 2 linings for pickleball. Now, I get a ton of calls to my office for pickleball. They really, the residents are, and they are all our residents, they're requesting pickleball. The thing with putting pickleball lines, that's easy enough to do, but having a standalone court, tennis court like that, fenced in to do pickleball like that is ideal. To try and do it out here at Cantor Park and line, for pickleball and have pickleball and tennis going on at the same time would be difficult.
Do pickleball courts in other towns, I know you're familiar with most towns, are they usually lit because to get usage, or
Well,
not?
lighting courts, is my favorite thing to do.
Well, that wasn't really what I was asking. Is it, Bernard's is, and I think
pretty
Chatham
sure.
is, right?
I don't know, Berkeley Heights I don't think is, but they play down in Columbia.
Yeah. It's nice now, since we've lit these tennis courts here, it's really nice when I drive by at night and I see those lights on. They're playing tennis, and we've been getting these warmer evenings, so it's nice to see. And there's actually, like a little Facebook group that started with the kids just to talk about the basketball court and who's going down to play on the basketball court under the lights. So that's nice to see.
You see, pickleball aside, I was thinking Cantor could absorb tennis and basketball, but the pickleball puts us in a bit of a pickle. That was bad.
Yeah.
That was
How big,
I knew we were going there, though.
can I ask a question, Lisa? How big a court is pickleball? Is it the same size as a tennis
No,
court?
it's half.
It's half of
You
it.
can you can do it a couple different ways, but the way to get the most maximum usage.
So you could technically reclaim half of that tennis court and create a single-use pickleball court.
You couldn't, and the plans are, for the bid, it's got 2 courts that just run the opposite way, up over at Myersville.
And how often are people down there playing pickleball?
Well, they're not playing pickleball now because we're not lined for it. But that was
I see.
the intent going forward with putting a new surface on there, was lining it for pickleball and then purchasing the nets that they would roll on to make it adjustable for pickleball.
So just kind of rewinding a little bit, because I know Vic's chomping at the bit here. He's got some questions. Currently, I think we fit around 24 cars down there, maybe 30 max if they're jammed in.
So there's, I guess, what they do.
There's no lines.
And that's right, there is no lines, and that's gravel. And then there's also a lot of cars that park up against the tennis courts there, which is not ideal, but people out of necessity do that. But like, as Mark was saying, with the one parking configuration, it's not ideal to have cars pulling head-on and then backing out onto New Vernon Road.
And plus, it's a safety issue with people walking along the road.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that we've seen just from experience is when you have games scheduled, one on top of the other, you have people showing up for the next game
Right.
while there's no parking
Right,
spaces
the
there.
overlap of the present people on the field and the next team, yeah.
So my observation, looking at this, Mark, is based upon what we can cram in there right now,
Yeah.
you could effectively double the amount of cars that you park there.
If you cram them in the way they've been doing it now in an unorganized fashion, what that does is that, people get locked in to do that, right?
What I'm saying is, from your plans here, so for
Yeah.
instance, the one thing where you do everything except the playground,
Oh, right, yes.
you get up to
Yeah.
like 56 spots, right? But that's more than twice what we
Right.
have right now. To
Right.
figure out a way, maybe to make a dedicated pickleball court, you're probably down to like 48, 44.
Oh, so just take half the tennis court is
I'm
what you're
just,
saying.
I'm just saying, that's what,
Yeah.
the one thing I would say, and I'd recommend to everybody else, you really want to have that playground there, because when families show up to play, they gotta have some place to put, the
younger one.
5-year-olds.
I mean, the playground is, that's kind
It's a
of,
given.
have to have it there, but, so, Lisa, how many spots are you actually recommending
Well,
for?
Mark and I were just talking about that before the meeting, and, he said, if you had your druthers, what would you like? And I said 50.
50?
So, we're pretty close with a couple of those.
So, yeah, and so, with that 50, there's no hope of a pickleball in there, right?
Pardon me?
There's no hope of a pickleball
Well, I
with
guess
that
if you did
50?
the one with the, we
If-
didn't do it with just half of the tennis.
Yeah, no, we didn't. If you took out half the tennis court, that gets me 60 feet. I've got 40 on the basketball, so I may be able to, find 5 feet here or there, squeeze a little bit down, maybe narrow the aisle width down to 23. We could take a little bit of liberty there. I may be able to get 3 bays in there with half the tennis court, the basketball, and the existing parking. That's going to get me, that'll get me 48 spaces.
Can you just convert the basketball court to a pickleball court? Wouldn't that be the easiest? Because the basketball court's here now. I don't know how big the pickleball court is,
I
but
don't know if it's
Guy
big
and I
enough.
can't see everybody else, but Guy and I were looking
40
at
feet
the
is
one
wide
layout
enough?
you
I
have
don't
with
think so.
48 spaces, where you have the tennis court gone, and then you have the parking more formalized with you still left the basketball court. So if you just convert the basketball court to a pickleball court, you still get 48 spaces.
Yeah,
I don't know how big a pickleball court is,
Yeah,
that's what I don't know.
off the top of my head.
It probably is, right?
It's 5?
Because if I fit 99 feet, so this width is gonna stay the same.
Yeah, page 5. I think page
And-
5 of the layout there, yeah.
This is almost.
Yeah, you can get 48 spaces if you left the basketball court in place and converted it to pickleball, took out tennis,
Yeah,
existing, you
that's-
get 48 spaces.
With the pickleball court. or
And how many
potentially.
pickleball courts do you fit on that basketball court?
Better than the 0 that we
It
have
might be a
now.
junior court, but yeah. I don't know how big a pickleball, I'm not sure exactly how big a pickleball court is.
Lisa, do you know how many we can do? Oh,
On the basketball court, I just have to confirm that, but,
To the regulation pickleball court is.
I mean, you have just over 99 feet on the tennis court right now, which got us 2 pickleball courts. And on the basketball court, it's just over 40 and a half feet. So I don't know, could that be a,
Pickleball is 30 by 60.
There you go.
Everybody's, that's faster than me.
So we can't do it?
not gonna.
Yeah. Yeah, and, it would be nice to have pickleball, but my thing here is, this is a baseball field that we've we've invested a lot of money in, and we have a
Tight, maybe. Yeah, you might have a little bit of room. You might be able to get it in there.
You might be able to, because you're 56 feet by 40 and a half. So you're just shy, but you might be able to extend.
You got a little room between the road and the.
Yeah, out that way.
So, but I mean, it sounds like we're trying to shoehorn this thing in there, right?
We are.
Right, and so, as I was saying, this is a baseball field. We're spending a lot of money on it. We know it's a dangerous area, and parking's the main thing. And so, I think personally, we have to do what we need to do here as far as the safety of the people who are coming there, who are driving on that road, who are walking on that road, and you know, I would say, given what the constraints that we've heard tonight, we should go with parking.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
And
I agree with Brendan.
Yeah, and to your point regarding the overlap of teams, as you mentioned, it's a baseball field, right? So if you have baseball uses and you already have the issue of overlapping with baseball, you add a third use of pickleball in there, now you've just compounded the overlap parking problem if you got events, so.
The other comment that I'd make, and I'm not an engineer on this, but that boundary between the street and the last parking spot, you know, if there was some sort of a curb and indication of a sidewalk, and I understand it's gonna go up and down because of
Yeah.
cars coming in, but, you know, some sort of boundary that indicates people where to walk.
Yeah, really, to better define the path there too. There's about, between that front edge parking space and the white shoulder line of the road, there's about 8.5 feet. So just shy of a parking space width. So actually you'd want to, even if, for nothing else, if you just striped it as a walking path, because you wouldn't want somebody thinking I can, you know, it's almost wide enough to be a parking space and I can slide right in. And if you've noticed, if you kind of look closely to any one of the parking layout exhibits too, is I've kind of given a few feet buffer off the fence lines and things for door swings and things like that, you know, just so you're not parking right up against the fence. But
Yeah, a walking path there would be good.
I think it would, and if nothing else, if we ended up with problems with, believe it or not, even in the DP world, you know, the 6-inch curb raise and all that becomes problematic in the floodway. So even if we had to stay on grade, and even if we ended up with a striped walkway, like very similar to like what you see at a bike lane on the side of a road or something, if you were to stripe a pedestrian path, it would be clear to motorists that they couldn't park there, right? As long as you delineate the walkway too, but it gives someone a safe path, safe delineated path that drivers can expect, that you could have pedestrians walk in that area, kind of channelize them in one area. So I think.
You know, the other thing, has anybody, as you're thinking about this, have you talked to PD? Because, I mean, I think there's been a number of, complaints down there, and they're familiar with what they get, and so it might be good to kind of everybody get together.
Yeah, I think once we kind of got targeted down on a number and quantity, then I think we'd have to really refine a layout. Then I think we have to get into those details. So right now is just the exercise of numbers and how many parking spaces could we get.
So to Brendan's point, and I think I agree, safety of parking, playground, and a real utilization of a townwide resident investment in that baseball, softball field. We have other properties in town. Now, I know that doesn't help the pickleball folks out there, but we have the property across the street. We have the property known as Eberly. We have the property on Laura Drive. I mean, so I guess, do you think it would be a loss to the community for the tennis court and the basketball court there? I'm guessing with the
tennis court is in need of repairs now.
Was it used when it was, I mean, I live there, right, just a mile away. I don't recall often seeing anybody there.
It's not nearly as heavily used as campus.
And that was
And now
pre-lights.
that's lights now, yeah,
So I don't know. I'm leaning towards, and I don't know if we have to make a decision this evening. And Jack, you could speak to the Eberly property, because the township used township money for half of that purchase. We can do what we want on half, or however it's delineated.
That's right. You could delineate part of the half for recreational purposes, and then
And that was one of the reasons we did
reimburse
do it that
ourselves
way.
from the Open Space Trust Fund.
So, Again, that doesn't do the pickleball tomorrow, and I know you get tons of calls. But I think the focus sounds to me like safety of parking, working with the Chief Naga and the police department. The playground, it sounds to me like that's
Yes.
a definite to remain.
I think if we have a really nice, well-lit baseball field, a really nice playground that's always been utilized based on my experiences there also, and we have approximately 50 safe places to park, I think that's an overall victory, even though it would be nice to get that pickleball. I do believe, we may be able to accommodate it Everly or Central Park eventually. So I think that we go with the well-lit field, playground, and 50, safe spots.
Organized, safe parking with a pedestrian
Yes,
path
because
that's
it's-
going to get you.
From personal experience, it was dangerous there a few times, walking around your car,
Absolutely.
the car's coming down, it was,
Well, yeah, even the compact space in front of tennis courts, I joke, I say, every car is a compact car if it's the only space available, right? So, I'm smaller than an excursion, so I can fit here. So I just can't really recommend, then sort of the nose in on the fence, there's really not enough space to safely do that.
and then additionally, we don't have to, the basketball field and the tennis courts are really not super well utilized, and they need repair.
Yeah.
So we don't have to repair them, I think it's a win, I
Yeah,
think
no, this
overall, I
is,
think we're
this
where
is
we
good.
need to be.
Let's do one thing well and safe there.
Yeah.
That's it.
The other question, this is on a similar topic, I get questions more than once about bathrooms there. I know it's not lined for a sewer, so I'm guessing even if it's permitted by the DEP, you'd have to put a septic tank in for a toilet, right?
Unless so for a while there, I was putting on my capital the composting bathrooms like they use in the Great Swamp, because of the same reason. I know over the years it has come up so many times about just trying to get water over there
That's the
so
other thing,
that we
washer,
can
yeah.
wet the field to rake it and get it ready to play on. And that was cost prohibitive and so much money. So, before your time, I know Paul Ferrera looked at it several times.
Yeah, and the restrictions are only tightening from the DEP when it comes to septics and composting toilets in riparian areas, in floodways, so those restrictions never get looser. So it's a little harder, it becomes harder and harder to get bathrooms, of that type, even a septic in a floodplain in a riparian.
Copper Springs has had bathrooms.
They definitely do.
So how did that happen?
That bathroom building, is, long before all these.
Yeah, when they predate the regs, it's always easier to live
So
with
it's
what
the
you have.
regs, not the sewer in that area? Like, when you go east of the circle, that's all septic, or almost all. I forget, it may start at the farm, whatever it is, that's all septic. So, for some reason, I was thinking the reason you don't have sewer there is because there is no sewer line, but it might be because of DEP regulations.
It's most likely because they predate the regulations. And, one subtle thing, if you notice, is, Public Works took down the light poles that were coming down for safety reasons. We made that recommendation that they temporarily come down. We left them 4 feet high intentionally. They look a little funny that we've got these sort of stumps there. But if we take them out, it'll be very difficult with DEP to put them back in. So we made sure they were higher than the floodplain elevation, just to keep those telephone poles in there, because believe it or not, that volume in the DEP world matters. So we left them there for the sake of preserving the rights you have. Once you give up existing impervious, you give up existing flood storage volume, you lose it for good, it goes back to zero. It's there in replacement, it's a different story. So-
That's a sad joke. We always say in the authority in the state of New Jersey, you start with, well, my fellow Muppets here, work your way up to the governor, and then you get to the real boss, which is the DEP.
Yeah, so we're trying to preserve what we have there too, and kind of work within the existing. And as long as we stay within that sort of existing developed footprint, that existing disturbed footprint,
Gotcha.
Then I think we're okay there. But we want to make sure that we don't give away any rights that you already have to existing. But a lot of times when the septic standards and things, evolved over time, a lot of the pre-existing things were allowed to continue and remain. So that's why you have things that exist that if you were trying to do it today, clean sheet, you wouldn't be able to get the same result.
What's what we learned with the Kurz property, at one point, 75 acres could be developed. Now I think we're down to about 8 or whatever, that's what Paul calculated when we
Yep.
purchased it.
Square feet. Lisa, one more question on unrelated but related. The mosquito problems that we have down there, is there any way we can get a mosquito commission come in there, or do we have money in the budget? I know there's like things on the market right now where you can place them around and you kind of keep the mosquitoes at bay. Are anything that we can do there?
We can call the mosquito commission. We've done it before for the Long Hill baseball, softball fields, and they do come out and target it. Yeah.
I mean, it's something that's, if you forget your
Yeah,
mosquitoes, repellent,
that's a
your-
quick call to them. They're very responsive. I mean, they have 2 people, so you.
And they're underfunded.
Yeah, but they're very responsive, and they're always very good to us with the informational materials and things, so.
Any other questions for Marco? Thank you very much. I know you guys put a lot of time in that, so thank you
I
very much.
had a couple spin-off questions, if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead.
So one of the things that we have, the playground is on the capital budget. And also, we had some storm damage where a tree fell onto the swing set, and I've been holding off putting in that order to replace the swing set. That was an insurance claim until I knew for sure that the playground there is staying there.
I think it's safe to say we want to keep the playground
Yep.
part, right?
Yeah.
Brenda, you agree, right? Yeah, okay.
A tree hitting structure, and Jack, you're the expert here, that is covered by insurance, that's
It
not
is.
debatable.
It is, but we didn't want to order that
I understand.
swing set if you were gonna say, no, let's
Understood.
get rid of that playground. So, so that's been on hold. We'll move right away because that's had that section of the playground closed down because of that. And we've got about a 4-week lead time on that. So I want to get that in as soon as possible. But then the other part of the playground, that's part of the capital budget. And then one other quick note, I mentioned this to Scott in my recreation update, but we have been having a lot of difficulty staffing for a lot of programs, including lifeguarding at Sterling Lake. It is a problem statewide. It's, something that we see with the shortage of EMTs as well, because you have 2 years where we didn't have in-person training. And it's kind of left a void with a lot of these things that need certifications in person, like lifeguarding training. So we're all kind of fighting for the same pool of lifeguards. Some folks aren't opening or aren't opening the full hours. We are trying to make it work. In fact, I had a meeting with my lifeguards today, preseason meeting. Normally, what we try and get back to, and we haven't had it in a little while because of COVID, is that opening day, open house, on Memorial Day back at the lake where the mayor cooks hot dogs for everybody. And we invite residents to come down for a couple of hours in the afternoon to picnic and swim. However, I don't feel that I can safely invite the town down there with my current staffing shortages. So I am recommending that we do not do the open house on Memorial Day down there. I do feel that we are getting some more personnel coming in. So in fact, today I interviewed a very good candidate for lake director, and so I was happy about that because that's a big void there. So I just wanted to explain to you why I was recommending not to.
So if I understood correctly, no open house, but the lake would open.
Lake is still open. We're still getting memberships in and everything else. We had our first training today with the lifeguards. So, I got a team ready to go. It's just that I have some newer guards. I like to have them train and not just get thrown up on stand before. We invite a lot of people that don't normally swim at the lake to come down and then have all new guards. So from a safety standpoint.
Is it possible, like, as time goes on, if you do get the staffing and you are comfortable, you can have an open house
I would
in
love to.
July?
I would love to.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, consent agenda resolutions. Anything anybody needs to pull out to discuss, are we good to go?
I just need to recuse from 22-131.
All right, anything else? Anyone? And I'd like to congratulate Meade Briggs. His grandfather would be very proud, joining the Sterling Fire Company. His grandfather, for those who know, is Lou Aranio, a longtime member. So I have a motion to approve the consent 22-123 to 22-133, obviously with Brendan abstaining from one of them.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Peter.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. Next is, which is 22-134, confirming order for Shade Tree Commission. What's this one about? Nancy, if you'd like.
Mayor, this is a situation where purchasing was, procedures were not followed by the Shade Tree Commission. They ordered trees for the challenge grant from Rose Valley Nursery without encumbering money or getting a purchase order. And in fact, they were actually picked up and received, and the Shade Tree Commission did not put in any paperwork. So we do have an invoice, and I'm just not comfortable approving it the regular way because, as you know, since I became QPA, trying to follow all the rules. So hopefully you won't be getting a lot more of these, but in the event where the purchasing policy has not been followed,
Not only have they been picked up, they've been planted by our wonderful DPW.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
much?
Staff.
How much was it?
it is about $2,400, the number's in here. It is
27, right?
No, 27 was, the invoice was 2413. The purchase order is 27. Somebody made a mistake on the purchase order.
Well, they included the arbor tree in there, that's why it was a difference, but it was all in one PO.
They put the arbor tree in there? The arbor tree actually had a PO.
The Shade Tree Commission are a wonderful, wonderful group of volunteers. And so hopefully, and I know that this was it must have been an oversight on their part, so hopefully we've worked with them to explain what they need to do in the future.
Yes, we've been trying. We've been trying. They're not a department head. They don't have access to the electronic system. I can see where an oversight is made, but, the rules are the rules, so.
As liaison, maybe I accept part of the fault on this. If I understood correctly, they simply have to speak with you or Randy to request it.
Right, all right, since they don't have access to our purchasing system, we've asked them to contact Debbie or Randy to put, a requisition in prior
But
to ordering.
that request has to come from the chairman. It can't come from the liaison, correct?
Come from anybody.
I mean, it could come from you. I wouldn't say a regular member, but from you or the secretary or the chair.
So it could come from a
Well,
liaison.
The commission ought to make the decision. Now, they don't have the authority to purchase anything, but if the commission has decided, if the commission has decided they want to purchase these trees, then it can come from anyone.
All right.
So the
Based on
fact that,
commission's action.
I mean, as you
Fall on your
know,
sword.
this is twice a year, right? The challenge grant is twice a year, spring and fall. It's been going on for years. So I like to think it was just an oversight, but again, because we've got, these are the kinds of things that come up in audits, right?
Apparently Brendan was much more understanding when it was the Shade Tree Commission's omission, but now that it appears that it's mine, a little bit less so.
Falling on your sword.
So, the fact is, the trees are, as you mentioned, not only picked up, but they're planted already. it's not fair to Rose Valley to not pay them, but I just wanted, you know, if there are glaring purchasing, you know, mistakes happen, but if there's something like this where if this was to be picked out in an audit next year and they see that we did a purchase order on May 12th for something that had an invoice from May 4th, you know, it's kind of glaring. So if you guys do a resolution, then we put it in the file and it makes it
Fair enough.
a little better.
Can we, can we send a message out to all the commissions and different groups to avoid this kind of problem in the future?
Yeah, I mean, there are very few that buy anything.
Yeah.
Shade Tree only buys things a couple times a year.
Historical buy stuff.
Historical buy stuff, but they know to go through us. They don't buy it without, you know, they've been pretty good. They come to us.
There's always new people
Yeah,
cycling in that have the good intentions and aren't necessarily aware.
yep, I can definitely put something together for them, yeah.
And
A little
we don't want to
cheat
put a
sheet.
damper on this, right? Al, how many trees were planted? 17 or? 16. They're wonderful. You know, I have several of them on my property from years past. This program is wonderful. So, I'm sorry, Chief, did you want to say something?
Yeah, go on. So I think that to help them out, so I did attend the Shade Tree Committee meetings, is to help them out is to, when Susan goes up there and picks out the trees, maybe by appointment, I could go with her, get a quote, and this way, it's kind of on me to follow up and submit it, which I did this year, but it was after the fact. So I'll reach out to Susan, or if you want to reach out to her and say next year or the fall, when she's ready to pick the trees out, I'll go up with her. I'll get a quote from Sean at Rose Valley, and this way, it's done the right way.
Perfect.
That makes sense.
Thank you, that'd be better. And just so you know, I did invite Susan to the meeting tonight. I sent her an email. Al said that he thinks this might have to include the Arbor Day tree. I thought there was a separate purchase order for that, but there might be the possibility, I don't know how this works, if we had to make it 2,720 instead of 24.
Maybe it's just cleaner to do that, combine it. No?
I mean, we could say up to 2,700, I guess, because like I said, I think there's a purchase order already done for the Arbor Day. I thought you did a purchase order for the Arbor Day tree. Yeah.
I don't have that, so I submitted the,
No, you asked somebody, didn't you ask somebody to do it?
no, when I saw it, I mentioned to Glenn that what was on the agenda was the wrong issue, not corrected, so it got to me.
Okay, I mean, so if you could just if we could just change it to up to 27.
Exactly. So we'll do the motion. So I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 22-134 with one edit, that we change not in the amount of 113.25 to just up to 2,700. Okay?
Second, anyone? Second. Brendan?
Sorry, hold on. Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Ray,
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia,
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
No. Now we have liaison reports. We'll start with Guy, because he's got probably the most important one tonight.
Okay, sadly, one of our, we have wonderful volunteers in Long Hill Township, as everyone knows. We talk about it all the time. But right at the top of the list is a gentleman named Israel Izzy Sierra. Everybody knows him as Izzy. And what we're going to do is issue a proclamation. And I'd like to point out that also, before I read the proclamation, that his partner, Evelyn Smith, is a longtime volunteer as well. And as everybody who volunteers knows, they cannot volunteer that time without the involvement of their better halves in many cases, so, and their families and their children. So thank you to Evelyn. This speaks to Evelyn as well. And I'll use his formal name in the first line, and then I'll just call him Izzy from that point forward. Whereas Israel Sierra Jr. joined the Long Hill First Aid Squad in 2007. Izzy held squad leadership positions as president, vice president, treasurer, chaplain, and lieutenant. Izzy was a key member of the Long Hill First Aid Squad, and for nearly 8 years would respond to over 100 first aid calls per year. Izzy served as a representative of the New Jersey First Aid Council. He served our country and is an Air Force veteran. Served as a firefighter on the New Jersey Forest Fire Service. He also served as a volunteer for CERT and served as a deacon at the First Presbyterian Church in Sterling. Whereas Israel Sierra Jr. recently received his life member of Long Hill First Aid Squad. Now therefore be it resolved, and I guess at this point I think Matt should read the final part.
That as mayor of the Township of Long Hill, on behalf of the residents of Long Hill, we express our sincere appreciation and thanks to Izzy for his distinguished service to the community, and extend Izzy and his many friends and family best wishes. And the reason he's resigning is because they are moving out to Long Island, I believe. Correct, Lisa? So thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you all the First Aid Squad.
And I know the First Aid Squad and Izzy are watching from home, so I think a round of applause are appropriate.
So we will have that delivered to Izzy through the First Aid Squad. Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Brendan?
Thank you.
And no report.
Scott?
Yeah, recreation. So we have one more round of Red Cross CPR AED classes coming up in June. You can sign up for those on Community Pass. As Lisa mentioned earlier, the Memorial Day Parade ceremony, the parade starts at 9:30. Meet on Mercer Street for those organizations that are going to participate in that. Summer camp registrations are now open through May 31st, so be sure to get on top of that if your children plan to participate in that. Sterling Lake memberships at the early bird pricing runs through May 31st. And the Spring Fever Photography Contest continues until June 30th. The summer concert series is shaping up very nicely. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different concerts.
Stone Pony?
Yes, yeah, really.
What's going on?
Saturday, June 25th, Parrot Beach. Thursday, June 30th, Crab Daddy. Thursday, July 14th, Due South. July 21st, David Cedino. July 28th, The Rusty Monks. Epic Soul on August 11th, We May Be Right. On Thursday, the 18th of August, the B Street Band, not the E Street, but the B Street, which I think makes them better than D, but not as good as A. And then lastly, the Denigrators on Thursday, September 1st. Wow, that's packed. And I think there was even one more Lisa added, Four Flight Rock on National Night Out, August 2nd. I'm exhausted.
Are we, on the two questions for you, sorry, we finished?
Yes, I am.
Okay. In regard to the June classes for the CPR, do we have dates, or are those?
Yeah,
on
we
the-
do. I'll give you those. So there's actually one May 12th, and I think that's what, tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then there's another one June 15th, Wednesday, June 15th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Red Cross Adult and Pediatric CPR aid.
Thank you. Second question, you mentioned National Night Out, which we're all excited about, especially after last year, whenever we had the team come in and jump. Is that going to be part of this year's festivities and National Night Out?
Apparently so. I don't have any details on that. That's August 2nd. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more detail next month.
No, we can't confirm that because I asked them last year, can you come back? And they said, oh, maybe. And so I've been emailing them back and forth for, a couple months now, and they can't confirm it. They don't have their schedule. I think their schedule comes, a lot closer to the date than what we're hoping. But I did tell them, last year, it is a tribute to Matthew Cantor. And so I said that even if they can't do it on National Night Out, that we'd love to have them come for a separate night. So hopefully they'll be able to fit it into their schedule at some point over the summer.
So maybe we can get a little clarity by next month.
I hope so, but
You never know.
the Navy
Yep,
sets their own schedule, so.
yeah.
Yeah,
They're in
we're
demand.
trying,
Yeah.
we're trying, yeah.
Well, Connell's got his jump wings, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Fly him over, he can jump in.
He'll jump out.
Tandem with you, right?
Brenda's going to fly a kite to substitute. Sorry.
Thanks.
Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Vic,
I'm done.
what do you got?
No, nothing to report this week.
All right, DPW, as Lisa said, they're getting the lake ready for Memorial Day. They're doing blacktop curbing. They've planted, as Al said, the 16 shade trees already. The street sweeper's been out. I saw them leaving this morning. And more importantly, with the recycling, I actually saw the two women that were checking the recycling. They were 3 houses down from Al. They didn't know that. And they said, oh, I just put a flyer on the garbage over there. So I went over and checked. It was actually Al's neighbor that put something in their garbage it wasn't supposed to, or the recycling. So basically for the recycling, the biggest problems we've had are pizza boxes. Just throw them out. Don't worry about recycling, throw them out. Any kind of plastic, whether it's shrink wrap, plastic bags, whatever, do not put them in there. Some people actually buy these see-through bags like they have in New York City and put their recyclables in there. They don't want that either. Even if it's all cycle, they can see what's in there, they don't want the plastic bags. So please don't use any plastic bags whatsoever. And the other big culprit was like just dirty stuff. Like somebody might throw a can in there that's normally recyclable, but it's got all food waste in it. So either rinse it out or throw it in the garbage. So please do that because they're not going to pick it up or they'll just leave it there and then you have other problems. You got to get rid of it yourself. So just please adhere to the thing. There's a flyer on the Morris County Municipal Authority website of what can and can't be recycled. We have them at Town Hall. It's actually, you walk in the door at Town Hall, we have it hanging up. Plus, it was posted on social media on Monday.
It's also on the DPW website,
I
right?
think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't even have to go through all of that.
No.
Just go on DPW's.
Or down at DPW, they reorganized the recycle area, and Al had a bunch of signs put up from the county of all the stuff they take and don't take. So just keep that in mind. All right, and I have no more announcements. Where are we now here? Oh, we didn't. Nancy, administrator's report.
Thank you. So just to follow up on what you said, hopefully the residents have seen, we did put these notifications out on our website, on LHTV, on our social media, and on Recycle Coach. The MUA has notified us, something you didn't mention, is that if people don't recycle the proper things, if they continue to put improper things in, then our costs will go up. And that cost, unfortunately, gets passed down to the taxpayer. So people can help keep their taxes down and help keep the environment safer by recycling more responsibly is the slogan. So for the next several weeks, residents may see this notice. Again, it is on our website. It is on the main page. It's a little off on the main page. It's also on the DPW page, but it's on Facebook as well. It's a very good picture on Facebook. I mean, you'll recognize it if you see it on your recycling. And the important thing to note is that if you get one of these notes, bring your recycling back inside because it's not getting picked up for 2 more weeks. They're not going to come back. So the biggest offender that they found is plastic bags. So absolutely no plastic bags, no dirty cans with food or whatever, as the mayor said. There's a whole list. There's a list on here, and we have a link to a lot more information on our website if you just click on the link. So please recycle more responsibly. I wanted to make a clarification at the last meeting. A question was posed about sewer fees, and a statement was made that they were frozen for 5 years. I want to clarify that because I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. The sales agreement with New Jersey American Water stated that the rates would stay at the 2018 rate for 2 years. We're coming up on those 2 years. They expire this October. And then the rates cannot be raised more than 9% over the next 3 years, 9% from the 2018 rate. New Jersey American Water is currently has a petition into the BPU to raise the rates by 3%. They're waiting approval for that. So 3% for the average user. The average user uses 5,520 gallons a month. And so the rate would go from $62.50 to $64.38. And then that's flat. And then metered is $115.43 to $118.91. That's the 3% increase. If they don't get BPU approval by October of this year, which is the anniversary date, then the increase will not go in until after October. It'll go in for when they get the BPU approval. So while the rates, it's accurate to say the rates are frozen, they're not frozen at zero. So I just wanted to make that clarification. And then the last thing, I'm very happy to say that Crossville Road paving is finally done. There's some punch list items and some grass restoration that has to be completed, and they'll be done in the upcoming weeks, but the project is substantially complete.
I heard from
And the
some,
paving
no, I
looks-
heard from some residents that they were very pleased.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Good job.
I've witnessed it. It really is nice. It looks like the Oaks Road
Yep.
parking paving job has just been progressed.
Does it
Long time
drain
getting
better?
there, but
When
it-
you were up there, did it drain any better from what you've seen?
Oh, I mean, no, I haven't
Oh,
seen
okay.
it.
I sure hope
According
so.
to Mark, it does drain
Oh, okay.
better.
All right, that's good news. Anything else, Lance?
No, that's it.
Thank you. All right, so discussion items, we have Mr. Kaufman here about parking in Millington. So come on up, Bill. Mr. Kaufman emailed me earlier in this week. Some of you may know there's a brewery going into the building he owns, which is where the post office is, and I believe he brought the owner of the brewery. And I know there's been a lot of buzz around town. People are excited about the project, so
Good.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm here on two small matters, I think they're small matters, regarding the same property. One of them is a small request of the board, which has to do with the brewery property. And then the other one is just really more of a counseling advice, a discussion that can help us lead to maybe a solution. So let me go with what I think is the easier one, and I brought Colin with me as well. The first one is that many of you are probably aware there was an approval by the Board of Adjustments several years ago, pre-COVID, for the project, for the entire property. And there was a lot of components to that. One of them happened to be the conversion of a planter bed that we had installed 30 years ago or so to a terrace, a raised terrace, for potentially the future outdoor dining or something else. And again, it was pre-COVID. I didn't have a tenant at the time. There wasn't a lot of discussion about it. It ended up on the final plans and in the permit package. We've pulled the permits. So there's really not a land use issue here, or I mean a zoning issue here or anything. But since the tenant has taken over the space, it's applied for an alcohol beverage control permit, presumably through the town, and a question arose, and the question was, are you allowed to serve beer on that terrace? Deborah cannot answer it because she doesn't see it in the resolution. It doesn't say serving beer on the terrace in the plans. There's been a few conversations with the representative from the ABC, and the tenants represented to me that they just really need a letter from the zoning office that says that that's permitted and there's not going to be a problem with it. And it's a small area. I have the drawings are
Megan's gonna
online.
pull them up. I know you emailed them, at least for the viewing audience, but Jack could probably give you some advice on, counsel on that, what the town law is.
Yeah, hi, Bill. I reviewed the plans, and I think the fact that it's shown on the approved site plan means it doesn't have to be specifically mentioned in the resolution itself. That would be my interpretation. Secondly, the town now allows outdoor dining, without board approval. And the outdoor dining section doesn't make any distinction between alcoholic and non-alcoholic meals. So, I don't see any problem from the town's standpoint with their proceeding.
Right. I think we're in agreement. Then I think Deb is in agreement as well. I just don't know that she's been told that she's authorized to just say it's okay from a zoning
Right,
perspective.
they need something from the ABC. Would you cite that statute or?
Yeah, well, if you want. I
Who
could
writes
just-
the letter? You
Well, it
could
would
you
come
do
from
it, Jack?
Deb as the.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
She just needs
But I
someone
can,
to
I can email her and say, we've discussed it
Yeah,
and everyone's fine with it.
We're all good with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. Yeah. If somebody could make that just
Yep.
release her. I'm sure she'll just write a one sentence saying that's part of the approved application.
Yep.
So thank you for that. That was one matter. The second matter is the same property. I just happen to be trying to figure out what our parking situation is going to be. It's been very loose over there for 25 years. But now that the building is full and the brewery is going to put a bigger demand on the parking, we're not going to be able to be as forgiving, for us, we say, for the people that are using the parking lot freely for outside purposes. Most of those outside purposes are commuting traffic to the train, which hasn't been a lot of it because of the COVID situation. But then there are employees and patrons from other businesses in the area also using that parking lot. So this is really a discussion about two parts of it. There's the Long Hill Street parking. There's an ordinance now. I just happened to stumble on it. The signage is incorrect, but on the north side of Long Hill, in front of the post office, it's 30-minute parking, which is fine. All the other parts in that area are 1 hour. So what prompted me to look deeper into the parking ordinances were that there seemed to be some private property, public, quasi-public, private property lots in town, such as the Valley Mall and some of the banks and the Cumberland Farms and other places where there is regulation that has been put in place by ordinance regulating the use of those properties, which essentially I think means if the owner calls the police can come ticket, which we'll
You own the lot next to the post office, right? That's part of your property?
Correct. That's all part of that, yes. So I anticipate that this could become a problem, and I really wanted to just have an open discussion about it. One, is there something we can do from an ordinance perspective that would allow me to put a sign that if people are abusing this, that we could have it enforced by law enforcement? Otherwise, I have to contract with the towing company. I have to put a giant 3-foot by 3-foot sign up and then chase people out, and it becomes a little bit more cumbersome when I think it could be just 3 or 4 cars. Overnight parking, commuter parking, essentially cafe parking, other things across the street. It's a little bit, it's perceived because there's a post office there, I think, by the public that it's a public parking lot, when it's really not. And I don't want, we're very careful in how we calculated all those parking spaces in the beginning. We followed all the rules and all the ordinances and all the requirements, and we have like 1 extra space. And then I think that was also, so that's one thing. It's more of a dialogue. And the other one is, I don't know that we need to make a change on the street. It just seems like that the post office closes at 4 o'clock, and the brewery potentially will be opening around that time on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Would it make sense to put something in the ordinance that allows 1 hour parking after 4 o'clock? I don't know if that complicates things. This way, people who come in are spending 45 minutes to an hour in the brewery are not going to be
So,
potentially.
Bill, can I ask Jack a question? What we did is address that and that was Committeeman Veleza that I think helped with that a few years back. On Main Avenue, we increased the parking after 4 o'clock to 3 hours or limitless. I forget what we did.
Right.
On holidays and weekends.
Why couldn't we do the
Well,
same?
we certainly can, just by ordinance. The second part of your question is easy. We can just change.
Yeah,
the
I wouldn't limit it to 1 hour. I would say
it's-
just
Yes.
park.
Up until 4 o'clock, it's
Yeah.
limited to hour till 4.
And
Correct, yeah, I wouldn't want to make it difficult for people, especially during holidays or running in and out of the post office. We don't,
Understood.
We don't
But
want to
4
clog it up
o'clock
during
on,
that
which
time.
is what we
4
did over on
o'clock on.
Main.
Exactly.
So that's easy. Now, the first one is,
Well, the first one, you can request that the township make Title 39 applicable to the parking lot, and that's what they've done at ShopRite and various other semi-public areas in town. The problem is we can't enforce the customer-only provision. We could do no overnight parking, those sorts of things, parking within the stalls, but there's no way we can enforce, the customer-only provision. So you'd still have to proceed the way you.
Right, so it would really be limited to if they're parking in the aisles, the drive aisles, the post office loading dock. Again, I don't see it as I don't know what the volume's going to be yet. I imagine that there will be, in the beginning, all of you guys are going to be there for the first couple of days, couple of weeks, and I hope it's all a big success, and there's plenty of parking in front of the bank and on the other side of the street, all over the place. I don't really see that as an issue. What I'm more concerned about is there are a few extra cars, 5 or 6 of them, that are that I can try to sign off. I can put signs up and do that kind of thing. I just wanted to know if there was something we could do from an enforcement standpoint that would make it easier. Because here's what'll happen if I've got somebody across the street or somebody using it or abusing it, and I call the tow company and it takes them an hour to get there. By the time they get there, the person's going to run out and move the car. The tow company's never going to come back again. It's just going to be a vicious cycle of nitpicking, and I was hoping to find a simple way to avoid that.
Let's hear from the chief.
There is a Title 39 statute that covers that, and it explicitly states that the removal of the vehicle is at the expense of the owner of the property. It happens all the time in Morristown. You see all the bars in Morristown. They have those signs that basically it's. Now, the owner of the vehicle is liable for the tow cost, but ultimately, if we do it under the authority of the police department, the township kind of holds the bill. But what it also allows the owner to do is if the person doesn't satisfy the bill within 90 days, he can claim that title and own that vehicle, essentially. So most people will pay, but we, as a township, as a police department, cannot inherit the removal costs of that vehicle. It's 39,456.6. It explains it clearly on what we can and can't do on private property parking lots.
No, it's really an issue what you want to do. Do you want us to put the signs up, or do you want us to pass an ordinance? That's up to you.
Yeah, so could you just explain?
Thank you, Chief.
Title 39, 456, does that, what is it?
39,456.6.
So, and you're saying that, is that basically doing what I'm requesting, that if I called the police department, if this is an ordinance that's passed, that this lot is part of that? Or it already exists no matter what?
No, that law exists to your favor. We do not have jurisdiction over that private property. It's all that vehicle out of the parking lot.
Right.
We can arrange to make contact with the owner of the vehicle, have it removed if they do so at their own will, but if they don't,
Right, so that's what I was saying about, I work with a towing company, and it becomes this, that's what I was trying to sort of avoid.
Right, so we're on the same page.
So that was, yeah, that's kind of what I was here for. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on this. It was really about, is there a simple solution by ordinance that would just help police this
Street
situation?
parking, yes, we can help.
Street parking,
parking.
great, yeah, and maybe, and the nuisance
Like I
stuff.
said, parking within the stall.
The stall and in the
That would
drive
be
aisles.
worse.
I would say for our lot, the specifics would be the stalls and the drive aisles and the loading dock for the post office. No one's ever done that, but you just don't know what people might do if everything's full. I can't, I just don't want to make it a nuisance for them to run their business. They've been there since 1925 or something, so I don't start making them not able to continue to perform their duties. So is that something that we make a request and you just put
Yes.
through, or?
But you have to submit a request with a diagram.
Yes, of course.
Showing, where the regulations would apply and what regulations you're requesting. If you want a stop sign, somewhere at the end of an aisle, or whatever.
Right,
If
okay,
you look
so-
at the code, the current code, like a ShopRite or something, it'll give you some of the details.
Right, okay. And in terms of the former, which is just the street parking, limiting or opening the time from 30 minutes to 1 hour or 2 hours.
You're talking
after-
about 4 o'clock on?
From 4 o'clock on.
I'd say,
Street parking.
I'd
We
say
can just put
no
that in
limit,
next-
or whatever we did on Main Avenue.
Well, or do you want it unlimited parking after 4, or would you like it like an hour or 2 hours?
Yeah,
Just do like we do in Maine, I think, right?
That's, what does it mean? What do you have in
Wait,
Maine?
There are no restrictions
Yeah, no
after 4 o'clock,
restrictions
or
after
whatever.
4 o'clock and on the weekends.
Right.
Yeah, there's no overnight parking in any streets in Long Hill, right? I mean, I think we'd have to limit it. What I don't want to do is have our tenants, our residential tenants, start to park their cars on the street after 4 o'clock and leave them there overnight. Because then it just becomes, another.
There is none, right? You
Yeah.
can't do that, and
So 4 to 11 or something, or whatever. What's the cutoff for overnight parking? Is there a cutoff at when you?
Yeah, people park on Main overnight.
but how about there? They can't park there.
Right now they can't, it's only 1 hour.
Right.
Right, so there wouldn't be overnight parking, but I think after 4 o'clock, you might want to have unlimited parking up until a certain
6
time.
a.m. or something.
Because what if a customer wants to stay for 3 hours?
Or if
Well,
somebody gets
I mean,
hammered,
it's your-
I don't know.
Have to leave their car there and get a ride home.
yeah, and then it might invite commuter people might
No,
be.
because if you limit it, say, no limit it between 4 p.m. and 6 a.m. or something like that.
Right, but okay. semantics, I guess. Then if somebody could be coming to go to dinner in Summit, take the train, leave their car there, and clog up a spot for 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah, if I were you, I would limit it.
I think it can be limited. I don't think we have any objection
Yeah, I
for
didn't
your
think of
business
that
purposes,
complicated.
Colin. An hour's probably enough. And, I mean, look, it's not
Well,
gonna be,
some of the other
it's not gonna be they're gonna
businesses
running through in an hour and 5 minutes. We're not gonna start calling the police. It's just, it really is for the, when we've got cameras all over. If somebody gets on the train and takes off, I think then they're just taking away from the,
Do we just want to make it an hour?
yeah.
I don't want to get my,
Yeah.
all right.
You know, it's not as complicated as
Yeah,
that.
just an hour all the time, yeah.
Are you sure about that hour? Like, I see myself going in there and spending 2 hours.
You can come, you can
get
also,
myself in trouble here, but
if you're planning on staying there 2 hours, you can park in the parking lot. There's no restriction in the lot.
It's full.
It's really just the lottery spots in front of the street.
got
we're
it.
talking about.
Whatever you think
You're
is
more
most.
than welcome to stay. I can reserve one for you over there.
Thank you.
So we'll just change it from 30 minutes
Perfect.
to 1 hour.
Well, okay, after 4 o'clock.
After 4 o'clock.
Okay, that's all, just because we don't want to have it
Yep.
over the clock during the day, especially during the holidays at the post office, because people do zip in and out of
Okay.
there during
Yeah,
the
we
day.
still have the milling
And he's-
stations over there, you got the ice cream spot in the summer, so hopefully people are using it more, so that'd be good.
Okay,
All right.
I'd give more time, but now it's fine, if everybody agrees.
beautiful. Again, it's not, I think it's, I don't know that they're marking tires out there, you know, if it's that kind of enforceability. It's really going to probably be if we call or somebody calls and says there's a car here for 2.5 hours, and it's councilman, he's got to, he's got to get his car out of there before he gets towed. We won't mention any names. I think that was it for me, so I think just that piece on the parking, and then
When do you think it's going
That's
to
the
open?
next question, yes, Colin.
Yes.
It's good advertisement right here,
Yes.
so go ahead.
There's been a lot of excitement, a lot of
Yes.
talk going on in town.
Yeah, that's good for me. I like that. Yeah. Hopefully, by the end of the summer, I'm gonna loosely say that right now. We've recently hit a bunch of equipment delays that are stretching things out further and further. So, hopefully, yeah, at some point in August we can get the doors open.
Can you
What's the
tell?
name again? Give yourself a plug.
Oak Flower Brewing Company.
There you go.
everybody.
Oak flower?
Oak Flower.
You can follow them
Oak
on
Flower,
social
yes.
media.
And can you tell us a little bit about the business? Because people are wondering exactly what the format is.
So it will be a craft microbrewery. If people aren't super familiar with the operations of that, it'll be kind of like a coffee shop. You'll go in, you walk up to your counter, you place your order, grab your drinks, go sit down inside, outside, hang out, play some games. We won't be able to have any food. That's one of the big licensing restrictions in the state. You look shocked.
Can people bring food in?
People can absolutely bring food in.
Okay.
You can get stuff delivered to the curb out front. I would much rather people be eating and have something in their bellies before consuming a couple drinks. So, but yeah, really kind of just hoping to make it a nice community hangout place for folks around here who want something that's owned by somebody. I live right in Millington too, so I'm here for all of that.
All right, good.
Yeah, we wish you the best of luck. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Colin.
We'll keep your spot open.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, thanks, everybody. I just want to say, my name's associated with this project, too. It's not I'm doing all bad things. For 25 years, I've been standing before this podium getting eggs thrown at me. Now, finally, everyone's like, when's it going to open? Not, why do you have to put more apartments in our town? So, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
For coming. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. All right, under discussion, we just have the county dispatch contract. That's still under negotiation, so we're not going to discuss it tonight because there's still some terms and questions we have to go back and forth with the county, which is contract negotiation. So that's the update on that, but it is moving forward. And Lounsbury construction waiver, I remember I invited Mr. Caputo to come back. I don't see John here, is he? Brian, you don't see John. John's
No.
here. So I guess we can discuss, we're not going to make any final decisions tonight, but if you guys want to discuss it more, we can always have John come back. I think the issue is we want to know what the scope is, or at least have them present the plans to our construction department to see what this project entails. We're still not 100% sure. I mean, for all we know, maybe only 10% needs to be inspected, or on the other hand, maybe 90% or 100% needs to be inspected. So, unless I have any objection, until we get more information, we can't make a good decision on this one way or another.
I agree.
And when's this? Do you have any idea when this is supposed to start?
No, but I don't think there's a major.
Yeah, they,
Oh, okay.
they
All right.
still need to apply for tax credits and everything.
Oh, so this is still
it's
not.
a long ways
This
to
is a
go.
long way. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we can table this till we have more information on that.
Yeah.
All right. Old new business. Under the Old new business. Unfortunately, longtime resident and Millington business owner Mary Mayer from Mary's Your Name Here is resigning after many years of service to the Library Commission. I spoke to Mary yesterday. She said she's very happy with the way the library, the direction they're going in. She's taken some time for herself. And she's very, like I said, she's very happy. There's no animosity. She thinks everything's on the up and up right now there, and things are going in a positive direction. So unfortunately, we have to accept Mary's resignation. The library board, as usual, they found a qualified candidate, Karen Remington. They asked that she get promoted to take Mary's spot, and obviously, I am going to recommend Ms. Remington get appointed to take Mary Mayer's spot. Does anybody want to second that?
Second. And for a term that expires?
Yes, in 2025, December 31st, 2025.
The unexpired term.
Yes.
Correct.
To finish Mary's term. So, anybody second that?
Second.
Oh, all right, Madam Clerk?
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pasurcia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right, announcements. Obviously, Memorial Day Parade, May 30th, 9 to 12. It starts down by Mercer Street and ends up at Central School. We had a very good turnout last year, so hopefully we can double that. If you have any questions, you can contact Ms. Scanlon. Also, keep an eye out. I know the DPW is going to be doing this soon, putting up the veterans banners around town. They're always up by parade time. I know there's some new ones this year, so if you have any friends, relatives that are up there, please let them know and go find their banner. It's always good to walk around and see everything. PBA event, they're doing a first ever, it's like a food truck type festival. They have a DJ. It's Saturday, June 11th, here in the parking lot, 1 to 8 p.m. Sterling Elks is very busy. This Saturday, they're doing a clothing drive and biscuit breakfast from 9 to 12 at the Elks Club. All the money they're collecting, there's a Camp Moore up in the Ramapo Mountains that's for special needs children that they run all summer, and it doesn't cost the families any money to send their children there, so that's what this money's benefiting. Also, the Elks is doing a Flags for Hero donation. It's $50 per flag, and flags will be hung between May 28th and June 4th. So if you're interested in doing that, please contact Kelly Mizaki or any other member of the Elks Club. Any other announcements?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead.
The Great Swamp Watershed Association is having its 5th annual Great Music Festival at Giralda Farms. That is May 22nd, 11 o'clock to 7 p.m. It is a wonderful event, and I'm sure it's going to be covered in the Echo Sentinel. I invite and strongly encourage everybody to attend. I forget what the fee is, I should know. But again, that's May 22nd at 11 o'clock to 7 p.m., Giralda Farms.
Any other announcements? Seeing none. All right, meeting's open to the public. Anybody have any questions, comments, issues they would like to address? Come on up. Mr. Grosskopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, esteemed committee. Do you remember this? The Long Hill Ledger?
Oh, that's
I know it's
quarterly?
been 2 years, and this will have this one from January of 2020, and the mayor at the time was Mr. Gray. I should say Dr. Gray. You're right on the cover.
Oh, this was a great issue, I must say.
It was the best one that year, the only one that year. I was just wondering if we could do that again. There's a lot of information that gets covered in there that townspeople could use. I know that there is social media, but some people don't use social media. And it could help a lot of people. And the other question is, why is it so dark and so cold in here? It's freezing and it's dark.
Well, the lights are out by you, that's why. It's like in your section.
Plus, we're trying to keep people to
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Gotcha on that one. But keep up the good work. Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Next person.
Good evening, Mark DiGiovanni, 580 Heritage Road, Millington. I wanted to just get some feedback and just some guidance around a topic I actually brought up on Friday around the Long Hill Township Police Department. We have been quoted as fully staffed at 28 officers for, I think, pretty considerable amount of time. And so what I do know is that for the last number of years, we've operated at a deficit to that. At this point in time, we're at 23 officers in our environment. That's nearly 20% deficit. So I guess the question is, from my perspective first is, I just want to ask the council if there was any particular support or feedback that you had as to why we would be operating in that. And there could be a number of reasons, but I just want to understand what that was from your perspective as to why we're not fully staffed.
As far as I know, our officers do a tremendous job, as you can tell. They get very positive feedback in the community. It seems like the 23 are doing an excellent job. Why get to 28 when it doesn't seem like there's a need for them that we know of? When Victor reads the crime reports every week, the good thing is there's not a lot of arrests. It's not because they're not doing their job, it's because there's not a lot of crime in this town, which is great.
Yep.
So at this point, I don't know there's a need for any more officers.
Okay. And that's certainly suitable answer. I think part of me would seem to think that the amount of crime isn't necessarily the indicative reason of how many cops you have in town. Clearly, it's a part of it, but there's other components too. And one of them, being that obviously as population grows. I would imagine since 2000, our population has grown. I would say that the amount of traffic that we have coming in here has possibly grown over that time. And it just seems odd that previously we'd be at a higher. So I guess the question is, at your point, at some point in time, can we have a feedback to that? And
To that point, actually, the 2000 census, Long Hill Township had nearly 8,800 residents. Now it's about 8,700.
Okay.
In the 2020 census, so actually it's declined.
It's a little bit smaller.
It's a little bit.
Not 20%.
I would agree
and
that
so
it's roughly the same. I would
Yeah.
agree it's roughly the same.
So the question isn't saying, hey, we need 28. I guess the question is, what support do we have to say that we don't need more or that we're underfunded? And I'm just not certain that question's been asked or answered.
Yeah, we go on population statistics, crime statistics, and the recommendation of the chief.
Okay.
So at this time, I'm unaware of any recommendations to, increase the number of police officers, but we would certainly be open to it if the chief thought it was necessary.
Well, the other thing, Mark, would, you raise a good point. We should look at comparables for other towns in the
That's
state.
what I was going to ask.
Right, so, and I'm no expert on this, I'm sure the chief has got a point of view on this, but look at Kinnelon, for instance, which, people have recommended to me that, that would be a comparable community in terms of population, the kind of roads and stuff like that. We don't have an interstate or anything like that. But they have, 16 full-time officers, 1 special officer, and they do some other things. So, I think that's where we need to look at it and kind of baseline this against the benchmark it.
Yeah, and more importantly, if it needs to be changed, it's not a problem. Bring it down. Hey, the quota should be 23 or 24. I think that would be more indicative of, at least showing that we've got some, like you said, comps. We've looked at best practices, what those are. I guess the question, though, is have we made any additional asks for resources?
To answer the question, what Scott said and what you just, I think, eloquently pointed out, looking at comparables, we did do this several years back.
Okay.
And we looked at towns in this area, not necessarily Kinnelon. We looked at Chatham Township, Chatham Borough, and I remember the 3 Bs, Bedminster, Bernardsville, and Bernards Township. And if my memory's right, I believe Chatham Township at that time, I don't know what it is now, had 22 officers, including the chief. They have a slightly larger population. I think they're roughly 11,000. The 3 Bs, if I remember correctly, they were staffed at around 18 to 20. So, and again, we can work with the chief and look at what these comparables are.
Yeah.
But I agree with your recommendation. We should look at what surrounding towns. I would contend we wouldn't look at Kinnelon. We would look at southern Morris County or, say, Warren and Watchung. And I don't know the answer to the question today. I know we did look at that maybe 10 years ago.
Okay. And from, if we don't mind, while we have, being that you are here, do you have requests for more sources? Because I guess the other thing, too, is that when we talk about if we're understaffed and we've got overtime, that's the other thing, right? So if we're considered understaffed, I have a brother who's a fireman, right? The amount of hours that these guys work and overtime is really important, but obviously it's not cheap, right? How much is that impacting us by having less? Is it better to have more and not have more overtime, right? Those are some of the things I'm just curious, and I'm certain you guys can do some homework on it, but I just wanted to get an idea around
That's a
that.
very fair question, and I know the administrator and the chief of police have worked on this along with our CFO over the years to look what that sweet spot is regarding overtime relative to an additional officer. So your question is a valid one.
Have any requests been made, though, I guess, in that time, though, for additional police force?
I don't think so.
No one's, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, and that's fine. You can answer if you want.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
I think where this stems off is there was a discussion shortly after I took over as chief back in February 2018 regarding staffing levels, and the committee at the time made it clear that the rank structure and the staffing level of the police department is going to remain at 23 officers. There was additional discussion of potentially removing 24-hour supervision, essentially eliminating the sergeant's position. So at no time was there really any direction given to increase the size. If anything, there was debate over cutting out the 24-hour supervision, which is the sergeant's position. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Any other member of the public have any questions, comments? Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Frank
Good evening.
Liberato, 589 Heritage Road, Millington. Just have two quick questions tonight. First one I just have for the administrator, and the other one is a follow-up with an email from Mr. Pigeon. I see how you're trying to work through the purchasing issues and getting that straightened out. Do you guys have like weekly or monthly department head meetings, where you can kind of corral everybody on the same page so that, the issues that have arisen or been discussed in previous meetings about purchasing, kind of run everybody through a little program on it?
Well, we have had purchasing seminars, both in person and then last year on Zoom with all of the people that do purchasing. While I do have department head meetings, I haven't had them since we've come back. I had staff meetings while we were, on Zoom, but I have not started in-person meetings.
Now, is that something that you're looking to do now that everybody's getting back to normal?
I guess getting back to normal is subjective, right?
As close as possible to
yeah.
normal, I guess, is a better way of describing it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how often we discuss purchasing in those meetings, but, definitely
But general business, I
something
would
that,
assume.
right, something I'd like to get back to.
Whether it's weekly or monthly, just get everybody
Well,
in the room.
it was bi-monthly, day after the meeting, so Thursday morning. So it is something I would like to get back to. I know that a lot of department heads like them. I find them very helpful. So,
I mean, I know in the private sector, we do it on a regular basis with our team members just because it's good. People can discuss issues they're coming across, whether it's purchasing or whatever it could be. Like we're dealing with fuel right now and other items. It's, very good to get everybody's ideas together on a regular basis, and I think it can only help.
I think that what she's saying, though, is that we did that prior to COVID, and she plans on doing it again.
I even did it during COVID, except it was staff-wide because everybody was working from home.
Right.
I did it during COVID, and then when we came back,
So everybody's back now, pretty much. Is that a correct understanding? So
everybody is back. I have not
and
started
you well
them.
understand the concept of the staff meeting and why it's beneficial.
I absolutely do understand it. I don't know that everybody's comfortable in starting them again, being in the same room again.
Well, this room's pretty big. You could space them out in here.
Thanks, I'll take that into consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for your response. My second item I wanted to briefly address, actually Mr. Pigeon had recommended in his email to me that I bring it up in open session here for the public so I can get some clarification on something, because I kind of got some differing information. And what it pertains to is the political campaign signs. I mean, as you all know, I'm running, so for committee, along with Committeeman Verleza. And of course, we're putting signs up around town, political signs. And I've been in contact, the zoning officer had contacted me last week because I wanted to confirm proper placement, you know, as far as in the public right-of-ways and so on. And I was contacted again today by the zoning officer, who advised that the political signs that I have, that I had up at the intersection of Valley and Morristown Road, which is out, in front of out here. He said he was directed by the council, Mr. Pigeon and the administrator of Town Hall, to take the campaign signs down that I had up there in the public space there, right behind the curb. So I was kind of really confused as far as, what is truly public right-of-way and what is town property. I don't know exactly where it overlaps, because when you read the I guess it's the ordinance, I'm using the correct word, it says, the campaign signs are allowed in all zones prior to the campaign, 31 days prior, if I'm reading the right item. And, of course, you can correct me, but I just want to get proper guidance to make sure that I understand. Like, I do construction, so I know when we have a right-of-way, it's 25 feet from the center of the roadway back, whether you're on a county road or a local road. So I would assume if our signs are, 2 foot off the curb and we're within that 25 foot, wherever we are in town, that would be in the public right-of-way. But the way the zoning officer explained, that he was given direction and anything that's in the vicinity of town property or town hall would have to be removed, that it's in violation. So I'm just trying to get guidance as to, am I not understanding it, or, is this, being, discussed improperly as far as, information being missing? Because it's become, I guess, a little bit of an issue. I mean, even last week I had 11 signs, unfortunately, on a separate note, were removed from their locations, not by the zoning officer. They were on public and private property and discarded into pricker bushes and into the woods. So I did make a report about it, just because, I don't know what's going on. So I figured, after I was contacted again today, I was looking to Mr. Pigeon for guidance, so I kind of understand what the situation is here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I think this topic requires some input from the Township Committee. Basically, roads are a tricky legal question because the town doesn't own the right-of-way. The abutting property owners, in almost all cases, own to the center line. Even though your deed may just go to the edge of the right-of-way, older deeds
Right, when you
own
look
to
at
the
your
center
deed,
line.
it shows that, correct.
But you actually own to the center line in most cases.
Center line of the roadway?
Yeah. But in any event, so the town has always allowed campaign signs to be placed in the right-of-way with the permission of the abutting property owner. So, I can't put a campaign sign in front of Matt's house, even if it's in the right-of-way.
Right, and I was explaining to me that if it's on private property, it's, not an issue. We were even putting them up prior to the 31 days on private property with the property owner's permission.
Right, and you could put it in the right-of-way with the abutting property owner's permission, as long as it doesn't present, a
An obstruction to traffic or something.
Safety hazard. Now, let me just read, I think Alec misinterpreted my comment about the public property.
Okay.
And the Township Committee could even change what I told him if you wish, but it's my understanding this has always been the policy. I said, Alec, we, like most towns, have allowed signs in the right-of-way as long as they don't interfere with vehicular or pedestrian traffic. That being said, you cannot put a sign in front of someone's house, even in the right-of-way, without their permission. Finally, we have not permitted signs in front of township property like Town Hall or Cantor Park. Now, maybe that wasn't clear, but I meant in front of public buildings, that it shouldn't look like the town is campaigning, in front of Town Hall or the rescue squad. I didn't mean the intersection of Morristown and Valley.
Okay, yeah, because those signs were removed, so.
Mine were removed too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I had 11 removed last week, and I can't figure out what happened. I actually had contacted the zoning officer to ask him the 11 signs that were removed between Wednesday and Thursday of last week. I said, was there an ordinance violation, or was it removed? And he said he did not take them, so clearly there was some tampering with just my signs, but continue on,
That
Mr.
was just
Bishop.
vandalism. So in any event, I probably should have expounded on that further. I gave those two examples, and I think he took it further than
Well,
I
he
intended.
he took it from me because we talked about it, and I said, well, parks are township property. So therefore, parks, Central Park, Turtle Rock Park, Hicks Tract, are township property. If you're going to say that they're not, then feel free to put your signs back.
Well, no,
But
I'm not saying they're not township property, but it wasn't my intention for all those. I meant along here in front of the municipal building. Did I miss that?
Well, I mean, I think we need real clarification because poor Alec is running around like, a chicken without a head, picking up these signs for both candidates.
Can I ask why, I have to ask a question here, right? I lived in town for 20-some years, right? I've been on the committee 9 or 10 years. And I've heard lots of complaints about vandalism and things like that. That's always been something. I have never ever heard of the town actually removing signs and us having this discussion, because it's always been kind of fair game within that 31-day period, which even probably doesn't pass constitutional muster.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
The town has never taken action on township.
That's not
property.
true. That's not true.
We did that
There have been
whenever
no,
Tommy DeLeo was told to take
Yes.
some from across the street, I know
And-
for a fact.
right,
That wasn't this year, this was a year or two ago.
they were not municipal candidates because we've never really had a lot of municipal candidate signs. And in addition, Alec has been inundated this season with complaints from residents.
Well,
So I think
complaints
the bottom line is, if the Township Committee wants to allow them in front of Town Hall, you can. But it was always my understanding that they weren't, as I say, when it looked like the town was involved in the campaign somehow.
Yeah, but the thing is that we've had Democrat versus Republican. We've had lots of contentious
I agree.
things going on in the past, and the town hasn't suddenly. Turtle Rock Park, for example, hasn't been a bone of contention. The other parks that you mentioned haven't been. Cantor Park, nobody's ever done it, and nor would they. Out here, we've always had signs at this intersection, and quite frankly, if we have a wall that separates the town from the road, and as I drive by and I see signs, even if they're on the other side of the wall, I don't have a problem with them because it doesn't look as though we're taking part in anything. They're on the road, and that's the way I've always understood this to be. But it seems that this particular season, and I get it, it's unusual, but we are taking an inordinate interest in the amount of in the police and the signs that are on public property, and I just find it strange.
We're responding to complaints from residents.
But what exactly are are these complaints?
I got one from the Elks Club today. I don't know who put the sign up. I didn't ask, but they said, "Hey, we don't have a policy. No signs on our property at all, no matter who it is."
Okay, but that's fine, right? Because we've always dealt with that. We've always dealt with complaints on private property, and as somebody who's made that mistake, it's a terrible thing, right? Whenever you put something on public property, even if you mistake it, but a private property, it should be removed. But what I'm talking about is our public property, and this is what we're talking about here. We are suddenly taking as I say, an inordinate amount of interest in the placement of these signs, and I don't know why we're doing it this year. We haven't done it in other years.
I disagree. I've been consistent. Whether or not they have actually been removed depends on the zoning officer. So I've been consistent, and in this year, I didn't raise this issue. This issue was raised by the mayor, who received a complaint. Email, right? You emailed Jack, right? You got a complaint, and
But it was on.
You emailed Jack,
on
right?
public property.
On public property.
Where?
Alec got complaints about Myersville Circle,
Yes.
right? That's where it started. Myersville
31
Circle.
days.
I
But that was,
So-
but that was within the 31 days. It
Yeah, I said
wasn't
the mayor that-
placement.
No, it was
No.
placement.
I
It
said
was
in the
placement
I
as
see
well.
the ordinance. Reject it, I'm sorry.
So let's just let's not mix things up, right? That was on the 31-day period, right?
No,
It
that
wasn't
is-
necessarily on the placement, because I have to get back, I've never heard of complaints coming from residents and us acting on public property. I've put up lots of signs, and I've just never heard of it.
Okay, well, they did come in. They came in because people have been quoting the statute. I actually went on our code book, and we've had more hits on political signs than any other thing over the last month. So my point is, I'm not acting arbitrarily. I don't care who puts their signs where. I'm trying to respond to complaints that are coming in based on what Jack has told us. If you all want to say, let them litter the front of, go ahead. But you need to say that.
Nancy,
We
if I
just
could-
need like a clear
if I could-
direction
if I
of
could
what
speak, I think
is
one of the
okay and what's
differences,
not.
one of the differences this year, and Frank and Vic, both of you started putting up signs earlier than usual. Usually signs don't go up, and you haven't seen anybody. You haven't seen Tom Payne, you haven't seen, like, maybe
I
shouldn't
waited
have
till
mentioned Tom
30
Payne.
I waited
You
till
haven't seen
31
Tom
days,
Malinowski.
Just-
Usually signs go
I
up.
did make a mistake of putting it a couple
Yeah,
days
I'm not
before. And no,
condemning.
but
So
I
did
want to
Vic.
apologize.
No, I didn't.
So did Vic.
I did it.
But
wanna
I'm just
apologize
saying,
for that.
and
go
Vic
early.
put 'em out
Yeah,
a few
yeah,
days
that's
early.
fine.
And Vic did point out to me that it was early, and I said, listen, I apologize, I had the dates wrong.
I think that's one of the issues here. Signs went up a little bit earlier than typical.
Mm-hmm.
To Brendan's point, I think candidates typically put them up maybe a week or two.
But in the
10 days.
private area, they were okay.
Fair
before
enough,
31
100%,
days. Right.
100%.
And so
The
those were
second thing
okay.
I would point out to you, you said some signs disappeared. The ones that you found in the woods, I don't know if it was wind or some vandalism, as Jack said.
Guy, they
I
were
will-
thrown 20 to
I
30
will
feet into
point
the
out
woods.
to you,
In pricker bushes.
my
They really had to
experience-
work their way in there.
My
Tornado.
experience with signs that have been missing over the years, there's an energetic younger generation in town that competes for political signs every year.
Well, usually they'll take
They
them home and
collect
put
them.
them up on their
Yes,
wall.
that's correct.
Not bury them in the pricker
The pricker
bushes.
bush, I cannot
Because
speak
there were
to.
11 of them. I mean, that was a big hit that night.
I think
And I don't know, Vic, did you lose any signs and any of your signs got taken?
Not only have I lost signs, I got the same phone call from the zoning officer, and I had to remove signs myself today. And I had 5 or 6 removed involuntarily, and then I had to remove signs that were by the welcome signs, the entrance, the entrances to Long Hill Township. I had to remove those signs myself today too, so I removed a total of like 10 signs have been removed or I removed, and then a few of them have just disappeared also. But this has happened. You're not like, this isn't specific to our race, so to
Well,
speak. It's
you
happened
kinda
to me in
wonder.
the past too. I'm sorry?
We got a lot of attention, I guess, on the race is the issue.
Yes.
I think we just need clarity.
Yes.
Are there any public areas where you do not want signs to be permitted?
Clearly here.
I don't think they should be here on town hall
And
property.
that's up to the township committee.
Okay, so where's here? Is
The
it,
town
is it
hall.
after, is it, I agree, there's a wall out there, there's
Not
looks
even on
like
this side of the
a
street.
clear demarcation. Do we want it on the street, on that side, or not?
We need to revamp the entire ordinance, clearly, to make clarify, because there's a bunch of different conflicting things. Frank is right, it's very confusing.
Yeah,
I don't
I agree.
It's
disagree.
definitely
And I've gotten a
confusing.
couple different versions when I've been getting phone
He's right
calls.
about that.
And I don't want to be wasting township resources and man-hours chasing signs, as the administrator said, if there's a clear point, because you get into First Amendment too, because it's the right for free speech and to be able to campaign. And from the outside looking in, when you keep getting phone calls and you're saying, well, you can't have it here, you can't have it there, you kind of look at it and say, well, we need some clarity here, because it almost looks like I got the weight of the government coming on top of you saying, you know what, we don't want any of your signs here, and just keep shrinking the footprint, and
That footprint gets shrunk for me too, though. It's not just you.
No, but I think we're kind of missing.
No, because I feel as if Frank is trying to imply that it's
no,
unfair,
I don't know.
like he's being treated unfairly, but
I can
it's,
only
we're both
speak about
being,
how I've
but
been
we're
told
both being treated the same way.
Well, that's good to
I
hear
don't know
that.
I don't know that
That's not the
that's
issue.
what's happening here, but.
I just wanted to make that clear.
No, okay. But the thing is that in regard to these signs, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, courts are incredibly liberal the way if the ACLU decides they want to bring something, they pretty much, anything flies
And we've had this discussion, I think they are, but I think you can prohibit campaign political signs in Town Hall, for instance.
Okay,
So where you draw the line.
absolutely, yeah.
Right,
And I think
nobody
you
was
can-
putting 'em
I think you can
right
in
out
front
here
of Town
in
Hall. I don't think you
front of
can
the
at
doors.
Turtle Brook, is that what it's parked?
Turtle, the one by the train,
Yeah,
train
Turtle
station.
something park, I can't remember. You know, I wouldn't see any reason to prohibit them there, to tell you the truth. I mean,
So
that's-
just so
But it's
I'm
up to the
clear.
Township Committee, I just need clarity from the Township Committee that.
So
we
I
give
don't
you
use the
and-
right of way as the rule of thumb from the center of the road, so it's really not that. So you're saying if it's open space or green acres or something along, say, Valley Road, are you allowed to put it within a few feet of the curb, or is that off limits too? You know, that's what I'm kind of, I just don't want to make it worse. I'm just
Yeah,
asking for
There's
clarity.
never been an issue with putting them in the right of way, you know,
Okay.
because the right of way is usually a lot wider than the pavement.
Right, and that's what I thought when I put signs out here at the intersection. You know, I'm using my construction background, saying, okay, right away, center of the road, back, okay.
Right.
I'm within 2 foot of the curb, I should be okay. You know, Vic had signs there, I had signs there, so I assumed it was okay. So I was surprised when I got the call from the zoning officer today. Listen, I'm just letting you know, we have to take your signs. And I'm like, well, I'm in the right of way and it's within 30 days. So that's where I'm coming from.
Right. You know, it's up to the Township Committee. If you're going to prohibit them on any public property, I would say limit it to Town Hall.
Well, why don't
normally
we-
the schoolhouse.
The community center would remove them themselves. Anybody
That's
would put up
private.
signs at the
They have a
community
lease, so
center.
we don't even control
But
that.
what if we did
But it's up
Town
to you. If
Hall?
you want to allow them in front of Town Hall, I
We
have
could
no
do
objection.
Town Hall, the first aid squad, the police department, the fire departments. Because they're the ones clearly with
And
people.
Yeah,
community
that-
center.
And the community center, but that's their own private property.
And
But
that's-
then we can rewrite or at least revisit this after the election to
Yeah.
clarify for
And
November.
and that's actually the kind of properties I had in mind.
Right.
If I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
And it's only on this side that we're prohibiting them?
Yes, not
Across
in
the
front of,
street.
Yeah, that-
not in front of
I was
Central
surprised.
Park.
surprised across the street
I mean,
was
that's-
prohibited.
It's okay.
I was surprised at that too.
Yeah,
And
so-
certainly at the intersection.
Yeah, so for the purpose of this election, across the street is fine. That may change when we fix the ordinance because it is confusing.
I think that ordinance came out of the beautification committee,
Oh.
and that's why it mentions the welcome to Long Hill signs.
Okay.
Well, that was a question too, because I had gotten a phone call from the zoning officer saying, oh, you have a sign in the planter box. They never put one in the planter box. I had put it along the road near the welcome sign. So is that off limits too?
No, it's only the
I would
planter.
say
Good
no.
question.
Planter box,
It was a
no.
planter-
The sign is okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I had to remove them from the planter boxes. So,
Yeah,
Everybody removed them. They're all gone. I know.
So-
but how far away from them can they be?
As long
got
as
a
you don't
tape
block,
measure.
as long as you don't block, I think. So both candidates are here, so we have
Yes.
clarity. You can't put signs in front of Town Hall,
Mm-hmm.
the fire companies, Millington Schoolhouse.
First aid squad.
First aid squad,
First aid squad.
community center, even though it's not ours, community center.
Right.
And then in the actual planter box for the welcome to Long Hill sign.
Yes, no,
Like
I know
if we
that.
went over by Cilento, if it's like next to it or in front of it.
Okay.
It's in front of any site of public operation.
Yeah, that says that clearly
PD and
knows.
DPW,
Yes.
the town
But
hall.
like the green acres
Ownership-
across the street
Ownership's
are
not the key.
Ownership, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
associated with
use.
the town.
It's used. Yep.
Use.
Because my signs were removed from those
All right,
planter
well-
boxes also, and they were
So-
around them.
So parks are, just to clarify, parks
Not
are
in the
okay,
park.
Not in the
correct?
park,
You
but
could put it along Valley Road over here, but don't put it in Cantor Park.
So if you're a couple feet off of the edge of the pavement from
If
the
you're on the
roadway.
street by like Gillette School or something. Yeah. Or like by the what do you call it? The metal barrier or whatever. it is.
Where the guardrail is along
Yes,
the road.
and then we'll revisit this and clarify it so it's clear for everybody going forward.
Just to complicate everyone's life, and schools, I think, right?
Well, that's their call.
That's the.
Oh, wait,
Ah,
Al,
okay.
wait,
We-
Al's
we have-
got a question. The schools are the schools.
Well, Lisa might be able to answer the one about schools.
That's probably a no-no.
I could say from experience, that's
You
always
don't want
been a
any part
no.
of it, do you, Lisa?
No, let the school board deal with that, but I'm sure they're
That's
gonna say
their
no.
issue. So it's just those
Yes, Al.
designated.
What's up, Tom?
I cannot speak for the school board.
Yes, Al.
House is not township owned, it's private property.
Say that again?
Township, the firehouse
That's correct.
is private. We have a role in the firehouse that we don't put political signs.
Right.
But I just want to make that clear.
Okay.
That's a good point. His first aid squad's
Yeah,
owned by the first aid
Millington
squad.
owns
Squad's private.
Millington owns their building too.
Mellington is the same rule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's fair for everybody, and nothing.
Right.
Same thing at the Elks, they don't put anything up. in
So
their
are
lights.
both candidates clear?
We're clear. Are you clear?
We're clear.
Okay, we'll make Al clear tomorrow, then we'll fix it in the future.
As you can see, Frank, it's clear as mud.
Yeah, it's great. Good job. Thank you,
So I just
everybody.
want to apologize for the confusion on our part.
That's fine, because everybody's, it sounds like everybody's confused.
Yes. We were
I
all,
just want to make it clear, we're trying to be fair for
Yes.
both
Yes.
sides.
Anybody else have any
No.
questions, comments?
It was all done uniformly.
Yes.
Good evening, gentlemen. Three quick things regarding, just piggybacking on Mr. DiGiovanni's request for manpower. I'm not sure if all you are aware, but during budgeting, we had discussed the potential that we are not going to be able to obtain accreditation due to manpower issues. So it was discussed during budgeting. I want to make it clear that this will probably be the first year in the history of Long Hill Township Police Department since Chief Falzarano is here that we're probably not going to obtain accreditation due to manpower issues.
But the curiosity there, we've been at 23 offices for, I don't know, since 2006, 7, 8?
I'll have to validate that date, but the issue is we obtained a lot of new officers with much less experience, which was the argument over having proper supervision at all times. But I can tell you right now, I'm utilizing a patrol sergeant to assist with accreditation. In the past, we had a full-time administrative sergeant, a detective sergeant, captains, lieutenants that assisted. We also had a traffic division. We no longer have any of those functions in the police department. We do take care of traffic concerns by utilizing sergeants and officers that are available. So you're not shocked when it comes up. This will probably be it for accreditation. I can't do it with the staff that I currently have. So accreditation is probably going to be gone for the foreseeable future.
That's the level of experience, not the number of officers.
Well, I'm utilizing patrol sergeants that should be supervising new officers to come in and assist with accreditation because I don't have anybody else to do it.
Understood.
With the addition of body-worn cameras and all the additional stipulations that have been put on us, I can't continue to do it with what I have. So we can visit that in a separate discussion in exec potentially with personnel, but just wanted you to be aware of that. The other two things is I've sent several emails regarding the Cradle Point routers for the police department for the vehicles. Copied the entire committee on it, also copied the administrator. She had advised that she would forward it to my liaisons. I've not received an answer on that. Funding is limited, and it is a grant that's saving the taxpayers roughly $20,000. Do you have an update or response to the request?
Scott?
Yeah, I had some questions. So can you talk a little bit about the grant in question?
Correct. It's through FirstNet. The equipment, the Cradle Point routers is the actual technology that you should have in these vehicles. Currently, we use mobile hotspots that you would use for your personal use in the vehicles. They come with their own set of problems. So the Cradle Point.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So it's not a government grant, it's more of a
No, FirstNet was awarded a grant through the federal government because of their FirstNet capability, allowing first responders priority access on cellular towers or cellular coverage. So they do have a grant. They're working with that money from that grant from the federal government.
Okay, so this is federal money that they're funneling to a program.
Correct.
Back to move equipment sales.
Equipment, well, they're not selling it to us. They're giving it to us and installing it for free.
Okay, and the inducement is to get us on FirstNet.
Correct.
And build out that network. And I did a little bit of reading about FirstNet. There's advantages in terms of coverage.
Correct. We reviewed their coverage, their live coverage maps. Myself, representative for FirstNet, and Lieutenant Marcheski sat down and had a very in-depth conversation with a representative that I also met at the state chiefs meeting, who gave a presentation to all the state chiefs.
And FirstNet is a combination of broadband and radio?
They will. Are you talking about in reference to something that the technology Tango, or?
Yeah, no, yeah, well, yeah, I'm trying to
It's
figure out-
cellular coverage basically is what it is, but they will be able to accommodate Tango, or they have their own version of Tango.
Okay, but wasn't one of the channels on that like 700 megahertz
No.
radio as well?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, yeah, I thought I read into that, and then there was some questions as to what its compatibility would be with the county system.
It would basically give us an access point, Wi-Fi, for lack of better terms, for our MDTs to operate.
So it's broadband to the MDTs in the police cars?
Correct, but they also serve, they cover an area of roughly 50 feet away from the vehicle, so if they are trying to communicate using something like Tango Tango, it would assist.
Okay, so in terms of, sort of looking at this like a project in terms of implementing it, what exactly has to be done to kind of specify this out and tie it into a neat bundle?
Right, I relayed that out in the email. I'm looking for, authorization to switch carriers from our current carrier to FirstNet.
Okay, so First Carrier then would be a substitute for the Verizon service that we have right now.
Correct.
Right, we talked about that in the budgeting process.
Right.
Is this equivalent to that and just like a net sum?
The recurring fees are within 2 cents, I believe, per item, per cell phone, per hotspot. There's actually going to be a cost savings in the first year because even though they're giving you the equipment, they offer you equipment credit. So there will be a cost savings in the first year. And then after that, it should be relatively dead on point with what we're currently paying.
And are there any follow-on costs in the second year that might be credited to us in the first year that we have to pay second, third year going on?
The recurring costs, we compare between the FirstNet bill and our current Verizon bill, and like I said, it's pretty much identical.
Okay. And do we have a written proposal that we can act
do.
against?
We do.
Okay. I think what we need to do is take a look at the proposal and, review it, just make sure that, there's no gotchas in it, and then figure out, how soon do you want to move forward?
I think I've been trying to get this
When does the
moving.
Verizon contract roll over? How
Right,
about
I've been
that?
trying to move this forward since early April, so the sooner the better. My understanding is equipment is short. Without us committing to that contract, we don't get in line for the equipment.
And are they including installation services?
Correct.
They are, okay.
The equipment installation is absolutely free.
And they do that on site, they come in, they work on the cars, and they do the testing and?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there a services contract for the equipment in case something breaks?
I don't believe so. I think he said there was a 3-year warranty on the equipment, but as far as repairs, I'll have to get you that answer.
Okay. What's the typical lifetime of these things?
He says this is a newer technology, but he expects the life expectancy on them to be 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, FirstNet's a great service. A lot of advantages to it. If it's a net zero changeover, I don't see any problem with it. Let's get the proposal, and, Nancy, would you be looking at that?
I probably would ask Jack to look at it.
Okay.
And the CFO.
Okay. Let's get it moving.
Okay. The third question is, about 3 meetings ago, we had a memorable discussion regarding some purchasing of the police department. I was told then that you gentlemen had approved a stipend for duties and responsibilities related to the flood damage of the police department. I then followed up with the Township Clerk, who said it was supposed to be on the consent agenda last meeting. It was not. Can you tell me what the status of that is?
I believe it has to be in the payroll, you can.
It's in payroll. There's no separate resolution for that. It's in payroll.
It was a motion that was seconded, and then there was a roll call vote. There was no resolution that was going to go on the following meeting.
Okay. 'Cause
When I sent you the email, I took an excerpt from the meeting minutes that said what was done at the meeting.
Okay. It was confusing because you said it would be on the consent agenda. I did not see it on there, so.
No, when I sent you the email back, I took the excerpt from the meeting minutes, and I said that this would be the backup for that approved stipend.
A motion has the same legal effect as a
Correct.
resolution. It's just not in writing at the time it's adopted.
Okay, so you're saying it's going to appear in a paycheck?
Yep.
When will that be?
When's the next pay?
Next Friday?
Should be there then.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Anybody from the internet? Megan?
Yes, there's a CA that would like to speak. I'm going to unmute them and allow them to speak. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Charles Arenowitz, Millington, Heritage Road. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Two questions tonight. According to this week's Echo Sentinel, one of the township committee members has an election law violation. What is the township policy when a township committee member has such a violation?
That there is no policy. That's the determination of the election board or ELEC or whoever runs it. It's their enforcement. They're the ones that are in charge of that. So they would handle any enforcement if necessary.
So there's no policy in the town if a member has that on the committee. You can continue doing whatever you're doing.
It's preempted by state law. So just like we can't make laws that the state already has and try to enforce them, anything, whether an ordinance or local regulation or something, it's preempted by the state law. So they govern that.
Okay. Second question. I was very surprised tonight at the comment that we were looking at the number of people that are accessing our election sign postings. My question for the township committee, we as residents, are we being monitored for accessing the website and what information is being recorded?
No, I think it's hits to the website, just like any other website. I could be corrected. Just like anybody else that runs a website, you can tell what people are clicking on or what the search topics are. I mean, Google can probably tell you what the top 5, they do every day, what the top 5 searches are, or 10 searches. So I'm sure I don't have access to the website that way, but I'm sure you can ask the webmaster what the top 5 searches or what's clicked on the most, and he or she can give you that information fairly quickly. Is there anything else that I got wrong?
No, you got that right.
Oh.
It's actually, I mean, it's the code book per se. It's what sections of the code people are looking at. It's the same idea.
It's not my personal information that's getting recorded, is that correct?
It's not what? I couldn't hear you.
My personal information being recorded.
No, it's anonymous. It's just a number.
It's just a number, how many clicks it gets or how many searches it gets. It could be the same person 10 times for all we know, but it's how many clicks or that gets.
All right, that was my 2 questions.
It could be Jack, for that matter.
Yeah, I go on all day long.
Yeah. One last comment. I'm amazed that you had this conversation in public about FirstNet. The chief has been trying to get the resolved from April. I just question why that hasn't been resolved amongst you and the chief and the administrator way prior to this. We got to take 10 minutes of time to discuss this in public and question the chief. I'm amazed.
No, thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Megan?
If anybody else on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else in the public have any questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. See you in a couple weeks.